I call to order this meeting of the Santa Barbara Unified School District's Board of Education for Tuesday, October 13th, 2018, and we will begin by rising to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tenemos interpretación al español, por si alguien gusta escuchar la presentación en español. ¿Le puedo llevar unos audífonos?
Thank you, and we have headsets for the hearing impaired, so if you need one, please let us know. There are no announcements from closed session, so we'll move on to the superintendent's report. And there are no announcements from the superintendent. He was not able to be with us today. He's at a conference, but we don't have anything to report out there. We'll move on to item 7, board comments and correspondence. Board members, do we have any comments? Mr. Paredes Ulloa?
Yeah, just got the opportunity, well, I've been doing this more or less since I got on the board, but I was actually able to meet with some parents who were doing the PSP MALDEF training at McKinley, Roosevelt, and Franklin School, and it was just a really great opportunity to talk to parents, to hear their concerns, and just kind of give them some feedback back and forth so we can have some conversations about what, again, is really concerning them and also how they can go ahead and to address those issues if it's something that the school district can look into or it's something that is outside school district control. I have a great time at it. It's just really fun to talk to these parents and just kind of get more of a ground level eye view of what's going on. But I'd love to bring somebody with me next time I do it. Hopefully next time I do it. Because again, it's just a really good opportunity.
All right, thank you. Mr. Capps?
Yes, so my colleague and I, Mr. Ulloa, we were at a coffee of the board. Thanks to Dr. Reed for taking the initiative on that. I had a really great time talking at San Marcos High School with parents. About 25 parents showed up a couple weeks ago. A lot of concerns, as you might imagine, about safety, about the armory, whether or not that will be for the whole community or just sort of the Santa Barbara High area, legit questions. And it was just a really, really nice conversation, and I know that we're going to be continuing these coffee with the boards so that we come to you in your neighborhood and you all don't have to come to these meetings. So just appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, I mean, it's great to have you all here tonight, actually. It's great to have an audience. I mean, not really, but I mean, you know. It's great to have public here to see what it looks, you know, what happens at a board meeting and also to be a part of it. So we appreciate you being here. There is going to be another coffee with the board, and it will take place on Friday, November 16th. It will be at Monroe Elementary. And so I will be attending this, and I know that all of the board members are chomping at the bit to be at this with me, but they'll be letting me know officially, and we'll let you know. So moving on to public comments, non-agenda matters within jurisdiction of the Board of Education. Ms. Sims-Moten.
Okay, so we have 4 speakers. I will call you up. It is Lucrecia De Leon, okay, to be followed by Cody Giddens.
Hello, board members. Thank you for your time tonight. I am here to represent the parents of Roosevelt as well as the Green Committee. The last time I spoke, I was requesting the assistance to integrate composting on site. And this time I'm going to be requesting the integration of renewable energy in the form of solar panels. The specifications I want to overview is just the cost savings that would be associated with this. And a case study or example would be Santa Maria High School District. Added 4 solar sites on site, saving over $140,000 per year. The projected is $7 million over 25. An additional example would be the Oxnard Union School District. They were solar 8 years ago, completed energy and water efficiency projects at the savings of $430,000 per year. I also want to highlight community resilience. As Santa Barbara is at the end of the Southern California Edison's transmission lines, it makes it vulnerable to power outages such as natural disasters as fire, earthquakes, mudslides. Not only do we have those possibilities, schools plays an important role in, as well, in being a safe haven, such as the Thomas Fire evacuation zones. I believe the solar resilient schools is not only a first step into making it more resilient, but also being a leader to the community in renewable energy, as well as a future disasters as the core of the community. And finally, I just wanted to talk about a message that I would give to our students in the integration of the STEM programs. And that's basically what we are hoping to have your ruling on, or if we could, how we as a community or a school district can walk alongside you, whether it be writing the grant writing process. And that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cody Giddens, to be followed by Ellen Hunter.
Good evening, Santa Barbara School Board members. My name is Cody Giddens, and I am a senior patrol leader from the Scout Troop of 126 in Santa Barbara. We're here tonight to observe your meeting as a part of a requirement for the Citizenship and the Community Merit Badge. On behalf of the entire troop, I would like to thank you for having us this evening.
Thank you. Ellen Hunter, to be followed by Caroline.
Good evening, school board members and fellow community members. Great timing to be followed by you because I'm here to talk about climate change. Thank you for your important work and service to the children of Santa Barbara. My name is Ellen Hunter, and I'm a teacher at Monroe Elementary and a mother of 3 children who graduated Santa Barbara Unified Schools. I'm also a climate reality leader, recently trained under former Vice President Al Gore. And I'm here today because I consider climate change the world's biggest challenge. And I am respectfully requesting that you follow the lead of 26 school boards across California, Colorado, Virginia, and New York to pass nonpartisan climate action resolutions. As you know, climate change is not a partisan issue. It's a generational issue, a social justice issue, and a human rights issue. Global warming is real, and the science gathered from across the world is solid, including the IPCC United Nations report that was released a couple of weeks ago. The unprecedented increase in greenhouse gases, along with 40 years of inaction, means that we need bold action now to protect all these children here and generations to come. We witnessed with our own eyes here in Santa Barbara the devastating effects of climate change during the Thomas Fire and, of course, the horrifying mudslides in January. We have the tools and technology to do this. What we lack is the political will, and so I encourage all of you, as elected officials, community leaders, and advocates for these children here, to support a nonpartisan Schools for Climate Action resolution in defense of our current and future students. Your bold actions on climate change today will make a difference for future generations. After all, we are mandated reporters. No educator or educational institution has to be a silent witness to the generational neglect that is taking place in our country on climate change. Santa Barbara has a history, an inspirational history, of fighting for equity and justice for all students. By passing a climate action resolution, you're making a bold statement about our moral imperative to protect our students. If you do, other school boards across the country will be inspired. It seems so obvious and so perfect for schools to be the ones to speak out in the face of this threat to our future generations. Schools are the heart of our communities, and we should be the ones to break the silence. So I thank you for your courage, your common sense. Passing this resolution will show that you deeply do care about these children and that you know that you need to protect them.
Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughtful work.
Thank you. Caroline?
Members of the Santa Barbara School District Board of Education, thank you for allowing me to speak with you. On Tuesday, October 9th, you voted in favor of continuing a public school program with the group called Just Communities Central Coast. This school program contains ideas of white people as privileged and oppressors who perpetuate systems of oppression against the targets which the program calls people of color. Ideas like this do everything to cause division where there should be unity. Everything to cause animosity, anger, and hatred where there should be understanding and forgiveness. The content of this program does everything to make someone want to commit a hate crime against people about whom they have been wrongfully and inaccurately taught are their oppressors. Indeed, within hours after your approval of the renewal of teaching this curriculum in our public high schools, the Santa Barbara Mission was once again the target of an ugly hate crime. Again, we see the disorder and problems that are the predictable result of replacing the truth of God-fearing right reason and common sense with the deception of liberal progressive ideology. Members of the Santa Barbara School District Board of Education, please consider this perspective on the controversial issue of the Just Communities program in our public high schools. This program hurts our students, damages our community, and weakens the foundation of peaceful coexistence in our country. Please stop your support of this program because the hearts and minds of our students are the future of our country and our nation's most precious and valuable resource. Please realize that the young minds of our high school students are very vulnerable, suggestible, and easily influenced. For this reason, we must be extremely careful that we put rightful, correct, and helpful ideas into the minds of our students. As each individual voter marks their ballot this election, please vote for school board members who will make responsible decisions and who do not
30
support
seconds.
this curriculum in any public high school. Vote for Bonnie Raisin and Jill Rivera for Santa Barbara Unified School District Board members. Thank you for allowing me to share this perspective with you, and may each person listening have a good evening.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Thank you. Moving forward, we will move to acceptance of donations for October 23rd, 2018.
I'll move to accept with gratitude.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that fellow board members would like to pull? No. Perfect. So we will then move. Do we have a motion for moving the consent agenda forward?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And that passes unanimously. We'll now move on to our action agenda item number 1. Board action on student discipline, Education Code 48918, case number 201819-05.
Just sorry. It's loading up. In the case of 201819-05, stipulated agreement with approval, expulsion with enforcement suspended, 2 semesters, which is June 2018.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. So we're going to skip number 2. We're waiting for some, is everyone here? We
Not
just
here.
have-
Not everyone is here.
Not everyone is here, so we will just hold off on number 2 for a moment, and we will move on to number 3, action agenda item number 3, board approval regarding the purchase of the National Guard Armory.
We do have a request to speak on
We
that
do have
one.
public comment, correct?
Yes.
But, Ms. Jate, did you want to speak to that first, the report? we can do public comment first.
Okay, I have two requests to speak on this. Mr. Ed Herring, to be followed by Alice Post.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you. And Jackie and the rest of the board, thank you. It's nice to be here in this position and not up there, I can tell you that. You know, I've written to all of you about my position on the Armory, and I go back to my campaign statements back in 2016, where I was very much in favor of purchasing the Armory. At that time, I made it very clear that boards of the future will make the decisions on these type of things, and I trust them implicitly that they'll do what is best for the school district and the community. At that time, I thought that, and I put in public writing, that it'd be $10 million for the purchase and $10 million for the development of the property. Those numbers, I said, were an educated guess, arbitrary, but it was the best at the time that we could come up with without knowing what we're going to do with the property. We still don't know what we're going to do with the property, but we do know it's going to cost more than $20 million. At least that's, from what I understand, from what I've read in the paper and Newshawk and those things, it's going to be more than $20 million. So the big question comes, where's it going to come from, and how long will it take? I know it's not going to come from your budget. You know, it may come from Measure I by shuffling money around if there's savings. But there's over, I think at the time, Ms. Parkin can tell me, I think there were $800 million worth of projects that this board needs. So any money that comes from Measure I towards the Armory, in addition to the $20 million, will come at the cost of those other projects. So it's nice to say we're going to make some savings. You know, at one point, it was floated to take $5 million from the Armory and put it towards Peabody Stadium. And that $5 million in the budget was for Phase 2 of Peabody Stadium, which is, at this point, I don't think is even in the budget. And so you can move money around, but the bottom line is, and as I've said, you guys make the priorities and you'll spend the money. But I think it's only fair to say that it might be a very long time before that property is used. I think Ms. Parker quoted it be several years. It's not going to be in my generation, I don't think, or my kids. It may not be in your life on the board. So you're making a decision tonight that's going to, some board in the future is going to have to live with and make decisions. But I think it's only fair to tell the public that that property is going to stay vacant for quite a while before a student steps on it. It's a beautiful property. I am still very much in
30
favor of
seconds.
purchasing it. But I think the public needs to know firsthand that it's going to cost, number one, money. Number two, the public will demand that you take care of it. The National Guard has not done a job of taking care of it. I had complaints all the time about its condition. I don't know if that money can take care of it, can come from Prop I, or is that out of your budget? I don't know. But just the public needs to be aware that they're not going to have students on that property probably for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Alice Post.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm going to quote from the Bible. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to break down and a time to build up. I'm here to tell you that I support the purchase of the Armory very enthusiastically. It's a refreshing moment of building up after many decades of tearing down. And it's a rare event. So very rare. I was very involved as a parent and a community advocate for neighborhood schools in Santa Barbara starting about 20 years ago for a period of about 5 or 6 years. But I haven't been involved in board issues for a long time. But I was on the chair of a group called Citizens for Neighborhood Schools, and one of our 5 top priorities was the acquisition of the National Guard Armory. And it's just so exciting to be here tonight to see this happening 15 years later. And purchasing of school buildings is not for the faint of heart. It takes years and decades, sometimes for something like this to happen. I was very, very involved in thinking about this issue and advocating for this issue. And I want to point out that there's a lot of people here tonight, and I don't think very many of them are here to talk about the Armory. They're here to talk about things that are about the present, something that they're going to participate in and benefit from. I became an advocate, a neighborhood school advocate, because I was able to sort of see the connection between facilities and community. And that's something that is sort of a long-range view. It's the view of somebody who can see
30 seconds.
see decades instead of just whatever program it is you're going to have this year. How long does it take to acquire a school site? Apparently about 30 years to 60 years, which is probably the last time a school site was purchased. And I want to commend you and tell you that I support this 110%.
Thank you. That concludes the speakers on this item.
Thank you. Mr. Tay.
Thank you. Thank you to your public speakers. So this action item is the accumulation of 25-year dream for the Santa Barbara community to acquire the National Guard Armory property for local use. Many school boards have kept this dream alive, and over the decades and tonight, this school board has the privilege of completing the deal to purchase the armory. Former Assembly member Doss Williams provided the legislation path to the purchase of this armory, and his sponsorship of AB 2247 in June of 2016. Our current Assembly member and past board member, Monique Lamont, facilitated several meetings with the officials to the Department of General Services to ensure the process was fair and transparent. Upon the resolution of this purchase and the sales agreement, the district will enter into an escrow process that will conclude within 60 days of tonight. We should have keys to the facility by December 31st, 2018. Once we have the keys and the gates to the buildings, we will perform a preliminary assessment of the interior space and buildings. Sometime in the future, we will build a stakeholder process to create a vision for the use of this property that will serve the entire Santa Barbara community. The items before the board are the resolution to approve the study of the negative declaration, which is the environmental review of the property, and a resolution to approve the purchase of the armory and also the purchase agreement. If the board approves these documents tonight, the district has 30 days to rescind its offer of the purchase of this armory. We also have Mr. Craig Price here tonight to answer any questions about these documents, and we're open to any questions.
Board, Ms. Parker.
I do have one question, and is this an item where we're going to be taking action 4 times, or can we take action once on all 4 items?
Thank you. Good evening. I would recommend that you first take action on resolution that ends in number 19. And then, I'm sorry, let me back up.
That's correct.
In my package, the first resolution, even though it's chronologically out of order, is 2018-19-20. That's an education code required resolution. I'd recommend that you first take action to approve that. You want to do them one at a time, or do you want me to go
Well,
through
we're
them?
gonna talk about it before we take action. I just
Okay.
wanted to be sure, I
And
just wanted the
thereafter,
list.
The resolution that ends in 19, and when you approve that resolution, I would recommend that the motion state that in approving the resolution, that the board adopts the final initial study negative declaration for the project, and, per the last paragraph in the resolution, does hereby approve acquisition of the Santa Barbara Armory and authorizes and directs the superintendent to enter into the purchase and sale agreement. Now, one suggestion, since Mr. Matsuoka is out of the area tonight, I would suggest that you indicate that the superintendent or his designee, Meg Jate, be so authorized.
So for this one, it'd be very helpful to have this open as we make the motion, okay? And then does it matter what order we do the other two? There's the two resolutions, and then there's the negative declaration, and then the purchase decision?
Now, one of the resolutions covers
All of that?
covers both the mitigated negative declaration and the authorization to approve the purchase and sale agreement.
So we
It's-
only need to approve those two resolutions.
So you only, that's right, it's two-stop shopping.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Price. I'm sure we'll be coming back to you.
And then the mitigation.
I just wanted to say I appreciate the public comment that we've gotten on this, not just tonight, but also the emails that we've gotten, the public comment that we've gotten over the years, and also the public comment that Ms. Capps and Mr. Paredes Ulloa referred to from San Marcos parents, and the importance that the Armory be used for a broad community purpose and not just a localized community purpose. That has always been the intention of this board through history, and then very practically as we moved forward with the bond resolution. And I know that it's the intention of this board, and I hope that the community will hold boards of the future to account on that as well. This is intended as a property to benefit the entire South Coast and not just anything that's near Santa Barbara Junior High or Santa Barbara High School. I really appreciate Mr. Herron's comments on the fact that this is not a site that we will be able to use immediately. And in fact, it may be many years before it is safe for students to be on that property because it will cost that much money beyond our budget, our current budget in our bond to make it easily accessible. I'm hoping that we can stabilize it, but that I hope the public understands that this is a long-term, as Ms. Post put, visionary, seeing it over the decades purchase. And in that sense, it really is miraculous that we're here. It has been such a long, long time coming. And I appreciate concerns that members of the public have raised about the costs that will be associated with it. What I circle back to is a long, long time ago, I was the PTA president at Adams School. And I remember looking in the news press from 1954, because I was looking for information on the history of the opening of that school in 1954. And the news press at the time also had an article about a big purchase that the Santa Barbara City Council had just voted for. And that was to purchase the McKenzie Park, what became the McKenzie Park property, from the Army. The Army at that time owned it wholly, not just the little section that's the Army Reserve, and they wanted to sell it for the outrageous sum at the time of $25,000 to the city, which was felt extortionate to the city. It really did. It was a lot of money at the time and felt very overpriced, and it was a split vote. And it passed. And I look at it over the years where we go, well, where would this, the north side obviously needed that, even though there were council members saying, why does the north side need a park? They have Oak Park, that's enough. And so I really look at this purchase in the same vein, that this is something that it might be, 20 or 30 years from now that people will go, my goodness, there was even a chance that school board might have let this go. And so I do see it in that light, and I think this is a very important purchase, not just for the students of this community, but for everybody in this community. And I think it will benefit us all. And so I definitely will support this when it comes forward.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Ms. Capps?
Thank you. I liked that you used, Mr. Tay used the word privilege, because that's the feeling that I have right now of being able to vote on this after I was sitting around the family dinner table last night talking about how long this has been in the public conversation in the community of Santa Barbara. And I appreciate that we have Dr. Ebenstein here, who, along with many others, but really you have been leading this charge for 25 years. And for me as a board member in 2018, to be able to do this is a privilege. I appreciate our speaker who said this kind of purchase is not for the faint of heart. We take these numbers very seriously and understand what we're getting into. You might not hear a lot of questions tonight because staff has done such an excellent job of keeping us up to date as this process has gone on. Our lawyers and facilities directors, et cetera. So I as a board member feel very eyes wide open about what this situation is with the Armory, and that it is such an amazing opportunity, a down payment for the future, I believe, with some challenges, with some very severe environmental risks, and we're not going to put students at that risk until we know that it's safe. That's our obligation. But even while it is not easy to swallow that kind of price tag, this one is somewhat easier in the sense that we told voters that this is what we wanted to do and put that question on a ballot. And people overwhelmingly in this community voted yes. So I feel a responsibility to follow through of all things. We have such a clear direction on this one. Many decisions we make up here, we don't have that kind of clear direction, and our job is to be a voice for the community here for the school district. So when we went to the voters in 2016 with this bond measure, I can tell you, talking with folks around going door to door and having events and whatnot, when we talked about the fact that the Armory would be part of this bond measure, that was such a selling point. And so I feel as though, again, it's a privilege to be able to carry through on the legacy of 25 years of organizing around such an opportunity, but also to then make good on what we told the taxpayers that we were planning on doing with this funding that they are turning over every year to our funding. So I look forward to supporting this, and I know decades from now, when we drive by and when we use it, and I want to echo what Ms. Parker said, this is for the entire community. This is not for one neighborhood or a couple schools. This is for the entire community, and I know, years from now and decades from now that I'll feel such a sense of pride, and for that I feel privileged to be able to take this vote. Thanks.
Mr. Perez-Uguera?
I can't speak as eloquently, as beautifully, and thoroughly as my fellow board members, but one thing, and I know it's years out, but one thing that I'm really excited about with this project is it is going to be responsive to community. This is a huge responsibility for us as community members. I may not be on the board when this finally comes to design, but it is up to us as community members to come to the board meetings, to sign up for the council, however it's going to happen, to bring our input and make sure that this is a space for us, for our students, for our, whether that's our grandchildren, our children, our great-great-grandchildren. It is going to be a space, hopefully, that we can all use, whether we're a DP, Santa Barbara High School, Franklin, doesn't matter, but it's something that is going to enrich our community, enrich our educational experiences for our students, and really just add more value to a community that is already so rich with so many great resources. And I think, this will really be kind of our one of our crown jewels, because again, it's informed by our community. And so as a board member, as a community member, I encourage you all, when this finally does come up, please step up, please use your voice, and let's design this space together to make sure that it benefits as many of us in as many ways as possible. Because that's really what community is about. It's coming together and making sure that we work together for a common goal, and this is that opportunity before us. Thank you.
Ms. Sims-Moulton.
Thank you. I don't have a whole lot to add. That's great in terms of that. I just want to say what a privilege it is to be a part of a vision. I was originally growing and born in Texas, and we had one park. And so to be able to be in a community that you have a voice, to be able to say we can expand our community for all, that it's inclusive, that everyone will be able to use it and benefit from it. But the bigger thing for me is that there's a vision here, that we can't see it. So we really have to step out on faith and trust that that vision is going to come to fruition. And I'm just very grateful and feel a great privilege to be a part of a vision that will come down the road, and we'll see how much more it's going to benefit this community. And I think it's going to be one of those ones that brings us all together when that ribbon is cut.
All right, now, what can I add to that? What I will say is that we are standing on the shoulders of our predecessors, and I think we're in a wonderful opportunity to actually make a decision that has been framed for a long time. And certainly, to echo my fellow colleagues and board members, the far-reaching advantages for the Central Coast. I think that needs to be reiterated again, that it's not just within our community, but the Central Coast. I also believe that it has been an ongoing process with many, many stakeholders involved. And all of those stakeholders have brought forward wonderful ideas and opportunities for us to consider. But what I'm looking forward to, and I think what Mr. Paredes Ulloa has said as well, is that this is going to continue as an ongoing process, and that we need your community input. That this is about, it's for you. It's for our community. It's for our students. It's for the Central Coast. So we don't want to limit it to small conversations, but to have broad conversations, and we are going to continue to be public about the process as we go forward. There's going to be transparency, and again, to reiterate what Ms. Kapp said, was that we really appreciated the support that the district has provided in giving us a process as it unfolded, and provided us with opportunities to research, analyze, and understand as we go forward. Though, yes, it is a vision. We're not quite sure where that vision is going to end up, but we do know that it's going to benefit our community. And so I'm thankful to be also in this position with my fellow board members. So with that, we have quite a few little documents that I have to do correctly. So the first is the resolution, and I just read number 201819-19.
Thought we were supposed to do 20 first.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, that's what I thought it was. Okay, resolution number 201819-20. Do we have a motion?
I will move approval of resolution number 2018-19-20 on the acquisition of the Santa Barbara Armory property.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Moving on to resolution number 201819-19.
I will move.
I'm sorry, I would suggest that the mover move adoption of the resolution adopting the final initial study negative declaration, and further approving the acquisition of the Santa Barbara Armory and authorizing and directing the superintendent or designee to execute the purchase and sale agreement.
So moved. Can I do that? Does that work?
I thought you'd say that.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Wow.
Wow. Wow, yeah.
All right, I think we're going to end. We're going to close public comment for this evening, yes, for all items. So we're going to backtrack to action agenda item number 2, board approval of resolution number 2018/19-18, the naming of La Cumbre Junior High's Theater, Joanne Keynes Theater, and we're going to head with public comment. We don't have any public comment. So we're going to go ahead, Mr. Tay, did you want to?
Yes, another.
We do?
Page 10. That's H10? I have H10.
G2.
G2.
I have G2. So G3, have public comment. Who wanted to have public comment? Did it come to me?
Do you have any comments that say Canes on it?
Nope.
For speakers? I think that Mr. Rouse just handed them to you.
Is that the last one you just gave to me? Yes. Okay. Assume it was under H2. Okay, come on up to the podium. I'll get your name in a minute. Okay, G2. Have Annette and Doug Canes and family. Thank you.
Well, I'm the little sister, so I'll go first. I'm Annette Canes. I'm the daughter of Joanne Canes. And I can't say how much of an honor it is to be standing in front of all of you and the board, and even considering this possibility of making my mother's home her actual home. Kate Parker, also my jewel, I call her, has always been a part of our family, and we're so proud of our mother and all she's done in her decades for the community. And even to this day, we still receive love, emails, hugs, and we're very honored to hear that this could even be a possibility for the future.
I've been a teacher in this community for about 11 years now, and a coach in this community for a little bit longer than that. My mom taught me how to teach. She taught me that I didn't have to be a teacher to teach. She showed me what it looked like to be a leader. You know, as I was sitting in the front and reading the mission statement, you know, it's something I grew up with, you know, the idea that she is always ensured the educational success of all students through high expectations, even when those students don't want those high expectations. I'm so honored that you guys are allowing her name to live on as a part of La Cumbre, because, you know, as someone who went to La Cumbre and she was my assistant principal, and all the kids that I've taught that told me about their experiences with her, she will always be a part of La Cumbre. So again, I'm just super honored that that monument can kind of live on, and really it can't fill the hole that I think myself and maybe this community feels, but it will help tell the story and the connection of La Cumbre and my mom, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
So this is another exciting event that we're having. Not only did we just do the Armory, but now tonight we are here to approve the resolution naming La Cumbre Junior High Theater after Mrs. Joanne Canes. Ms. Canes has been a valued employee for 30 years, and it's an honor that we do this for her. And we appreciate you being here, and so we'd like to adopt the resolution.
I think it's Ms. Parker that would like to make that motion.
I will, and I'll just comment that, you know, we've been talking about this for multiple meetings now, and we had some lovely speakers at the public hearing. And now I'm gonna, I can't look at the Canes family right now, but it was actually Joanne's fantasy that it be named after her mother, because her mother and father, the grandparents of both Annette and Doug, were so important in education. Her mother was one of the founders of the Santa Barbara Education Foundation, and the immense work that they did. And I don't mean the Santa Barbara Education Foundation; it's the Foundation for Santa Barbara. And over the years was something that she felt like, oh, I want my parents to be honored for that. I want my mother to be honored. But the reality is she's the one that had a huge impact on La Cumbre. And it was the staff that she hired, the plans that she put in, that really turned that school around. And yes, she lived there. And yes, it was her heart and soul. And she loved the theater more than anything, and was so proud of the work that was going on there. And so with that, I I do think it's very appropriate that we name this theater after her. And I look forward to, I think it will actually make the theater have more of an impact in the community to be a named theater instead of just the La Cumbre Junior High Theater. So I look forward to having many events at the Canes in the future. And with that, I will go ahead and move approval of resolution number 2018/19-18, naming the La Cumbre Junior High Theater after Joanne Caines as the Joanne Caines Theater.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And it passes unanimously. So I think it's appropriate to have a photo op at this moment. And showing the emotion is perfectly fine. Did you? Okay. So moving on, gotta take a deep breath there. All right, moving on to our next action agenda item, number 4, approval of the Santa Barbara Teachers Association proposal for successor contract negotiations with the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Dr. Becchio.
All right, good evening, board members. This is your third viewing of this. This had come to you for first and second viewing over the last 2 board meetings, and now before you is the action item for the sunshining of the articles for the Teachers Association for negotiations, which will likely start in January. They have put forward Article 6, hours and conditions, specifically teacher workday designation, co-teaching language, TOSA language, and then other. This is before you for approval tonight.
All right, any questions, comments, motions?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Moving on to action agenda item number 5, adoption of resolutions 2018/19-14 and 2018/19-17 regarding sufficiency of instructional materials for elementary and secondary education, respectively. Dr. Ramirez and Ms. Carey. Ms. Carey, are you our speaker? Together, in a unified front. No.
No, go ahead.
Good evening, Board, Board President, Dr. Reed. This item came before you during our last board meeting. We had an opportunity to give you some background. We explained some of the kind of extenuating circumstances, if you will, and what the resolution means relative to our current practices. I think that extends and is true and consistent for both elementary and secondary in different ways, of course. But we're here to field any questions or any follow-up that you may have.
Board? Ms. Parker?
I just want to be clear, so we have no public comment on this item?
No.
Okay.
We closed public comment, sorry.
H10.
Yeah.
Is that still the one you want to speak on, correct?
I could always give a professional courtesy to a teacher. Why don't you go up? Okay. Are you sure? Yes. All right.
Yeah. I don't have any further questions. I know this has been discussed already, so I'm happy to go ahead and move to adopt the resolution 2018/19-14 and 2018/19-17 regarding sufficiency of instructional materials for elementary and secondary education, respectively.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. So we typically take a 5-minute break, which I think will be perfect because we have quite a few public comments. We will come back in 5 minutes to continue on with our report and discussion agenda. Thank you. We've made a few changes just to facilitate and make sure that we can hear all of our public speakers. We are actually going to be removing from the report discussion agenda for this evening numbers 8, 9, 10, and 11. But we will have a public comment on number 10, first reading and discussion of 4 board policies in Series 6000 instruction. And we will just have a 3-minute public comment before we move forward.
Good evening. Thank you, President Reed and the board. I'm here to speak to you guys on behalf of board policies in the 6000 series, which is instruction. And I've been researching a lot of the board policies across the state and looking at their dashboard and seeing what impact those policies may have on instruction. And as you know, in our classrooms, we have been dealing with a lot of different issues around curriculum. And so I'm here to suggest to you guys to consider possibly adding language to our board policies that are for consideration that reads, the Board of Education recognizes that curriculum design or instruction is a prerogative of the instructional staff inasmuch as its complexities require professional expertise. I came across Ed Code 60350, which talks about the core reading program and instructional materials, as well as Ed Code 44757.5, which defines everything that children would need in the early grades for systematic phonics instruction and reading. And I look forward to a conversation with the teachers because as I look through our policies, unlike other districts in California, we don't have a way by which teachers can come and recommend what is best for instruction in the areas that impact our classrooms. We have an amazing collective bargaining team, we have a union president, but I think that we're to the point where if we just put some of these things in policy, it'll be settled and it'll send a clear message to the community where you stand in support of teachers and students and families in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we will move to H1, a report from Adelante Charter. We're going to do public comment. We're going to start with public comment, but it's regarding a report from the Adelante Charter School Board. Dominique Pascage, Adelante Charter School Board's president, and Dr. David Batista, director of Adelante Charter School. Sorry about that. We'll start with public comment. Ms. Sims-Moten.
Okay, so as we have several speakers on this item, so we're going to be reducing the time to ensure that everybody gets a chance to speak. Please adhere to that time so that we're fair. So we have 1 minute and 30 seconds. I'm going to give you a polite 30 seconds, and then you'll be concluding your comments at that time. So the first speaker I'm going to pull up is Graciela Rodriguez. So y'all need to come on, and every time y'all clap, that's wasting a little bit more time. So can y'all hold that to the end? And following Graciela, that's going to be Ed. So we're going to keep this moving so that everybody's here able to get their spots in.
So I had a list of things I wanted to share, but I don't have time. So the students will share a little something. This wasn't planned. So I've been teaching Adelante Charter School now. Well, I've been with the community for 17 years. I love my job, love what we do. I don't want what happened to me to happen to my students. In second grade, I was prohibited from speaking Spanish and lost my language. And we have something beautiful to share with you. ¿Listas?
En este mundo tan lindo y tan grande, yo soy único, yo soy especial, lleno de amor y de inteligencia. Yo puedo realizar mis sueños siendo un buen estudiante
Thank you. Ed Heron, to be followed by Georgina Hostel. That's you, Ed. I think you like that spot over there, Ed.
Thank you for putting two things on one night that I'm in love with, and I won't have to come back for another couple of years. It was just real fast. It was eight years ago that this room was packed in the same way with Adelante that it is now, only then it was in survival mode. What can we do to save Adelante? It wasn't Adelante then, but what can we do to save it? And fortunately, Ms. Parker, in a 3-2 vote, we saved it to give them about 6 months to solve about 50 issues. And they were not easy issues. And with diligence, they came back and fulfilled those issues, and it finally was voted on 4-1 to continue Adelante. I was fortunate enough in 2016 to be asked to speak to the graduating class, which was the first class under Adelante that went through all 6 years. And I'd just like to read what I said because I think it's appropriate tonight. Do you really know how special you are? In our schools, 775 students have graduated from 3rd grade this week. You are the only ones of all those students who are graduating as bilingual and bicultural. What a tremendous gift and blessing you have received. Please continue to speak, write, and read in both Spanish and English. Knowing 2 languages in today's world will give you tremendous opportunities and will be a great benefit as you go through life. Don't leave it behind as you continue with your education. Search out those classes that allow you to continue to use your Spanish. You will be forever thankful. Going to kindergarten to 8th will fulfill that dream to give these kids a better opportunity to get their language. So,
now, Ed, you're supposed to set the example now. 30 seconds. You're supposed to be setting the example. So you got to keep it moving. Come on, Ed.
I've been through this. I don't know what the solution is, but Adelante is a dream come true. And I was liaison for 6 years, enjoyed every one of their meetings, worked very hard on their behalf, and they taught me so much. So whatever it takes to be successful with this group of parents. And by the way, 8 years ago, it wasn't.
No, Ed, you really taking advantage of my kindness right now.
I'm saving you time.
No, you're not.
8 years ago, it wasn't clapping. Those of you who were here, what was it? No, it was quiet like this. That was the most impressive thing I thought was fantastic of the parents. So tonight, do the same thing. Just wave.
Oh, thank you. Do not follow that example he just set. So I need Georgina and I need Elise Rubakova. Oops. Gotta help her out there.
Lo voy a hacer en español, entonces sí lo pueden traducir, ¿verdad?
When we're translating, we're giving you a little extra time, so if you notice that. So I just want to let the audience know. Okay.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Georgina Huaste.
Good evening, my name is Georgina Huaste.
Soy la mamá de 3 hijos. Tengo 2 hijos que han estado en Adelante y ahora están en Junior High.
I'm the mother of 3 children. 2 of them have been in Adelante and 1 in junior high.
Uno más está ahí y me siento muy orgullosa de que siga ahí mi hijo. Y si tuviera más hijos, los volviera a poner ahí.
1 more children right now is still remaining in Adelante, and in Adelante. If I still have more children, I would love to put him in there still.
Pero algo muy importante que les quisiera mencionar a todos ustedes es, mi hija tiene un sueño, ella quiere ser una aeromoza.
But there's something really important that I want to share with you. My daughter has a dream, and she wants to be a flight attendant.
Y nosotros, desafortunadamente por nuestra cultura, a veces creemos que no lo podemos lograr.
And unfortunately for us, in our culture, we think that sometimes we cannot achieve our dreams.
Pero ahora mi hija cree que eso es posible.
But now my daughter thinks that that's possible for her.
Y la primera posibilidad que es porque ella es una niña bilingüe.
And the first possibility that she has, and she knows that it's happening because she's a bilingual student.
Entonces, yo les quiero decir a ustedes que la Escuela Adelante es el primer paso para el futuro de mi hija que quiere ser una aeromoza.
So I just want to mention to you that Adelante is the first step for my daughter that wants to be a flight attendant.
Porque ella se está ahorrando algún tiempo que cuando pudiera ir a la universidad y agarrar más idiomas, lo está agarrando hoy, que hoy es su futuro.
Because right now, she is saving some time that when she goes to high school or college, she's not going to be spending on time learning a different language. She knows it right now because right now is her future.
Y igualmente para mi hija yo sé que hay muchas historias como estas y me siento muy orgullosa de tener una hija, mis 3 hijos que son bilingües, y también me siento muy agradecida por tener a nuestro director, que creo que es un brincolín donde todos esos niños están brincando en esa escuela y él es el líder de ese brincolín que lo está subiendo a todos los niños para arriba, y muchas gracias a todos por su tiempo también.
I'll do my best. So for my daughter, I'm really grateful for my 3 children. I know this has been amazing for them, and I want to just thank as well our Director Bautista, because he's been jumping in this trampoline that he's been that he's been helping our children a lot. He's just jumping like in a brincolin that is fulfilling them to their future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Elise Rubalcaba. Inez? Are you Elise?
I'm Alice.
Okay, all right, Elise. Followed by Inez.
Well, I'm not going to just go into that. For me, it's a simple thing. Adelante gave me back my family and my community. For me, I'm Mexican. I always spoke Spanish. With my children, I started speaking Spanish when they were born. And there was a moment when they were 2 years old that they were just wanting to come to me in Spanish, in English, because nobody understood them at the park. They didn't wanted to be speaking to me no longer in Spanish. So I wrongfully started to speak to them in English. And then there was no going back. It was like, Mommy, why are we going to speak in Spanish? It's only the 4 of us crazy at home speaking Spanish, and there's nobody else speaking Spanish. And they don't want to be speaking Spanish to me at home anymore. So we just switched to English. And I felt like how my community just shrink, my roots shrink, my everything just shrank so much. And I didn't have that community back until I went back to Adelante and noticing how much my culture came back, my roots came back, my pride came back. Just to have that support of people, the community that we found in Adelante, it's amazing to have them support. My kid right now feels proud instead of feeling ashamed of having that. So for me, Adelante has been giving us my family and my community back, and I would love for more people to have and feel that. And the same with Caucasian kids and with white people, just to have that sense of community also in there. We should be more privileged in both sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Inez, to be followed by Taj.
Hi, I'm Ines. I'm a professor at UCSB. I research and write about the significance of Spanish in the media within the geographical U.S., and I'm here as a parent of 2 to share instances of how Adelante, my 2 kids who go there, have transformed our family. One is my mother, an immigrant, Spanish-speaking, who I have no recollection of her being able to help me with my homework growing up. She would make a snack. She would pay the 12-year-old next door to help me with homework. But today she attends field trips with Adelante. She helps her grandchildren, my kids, with their homework. It took decades later, but she finally feels included in a U.S. school. Another instance is my 4th grader who came home the first day of school this year, where Miss Mesa had told her that when we speak 2 languages, we can be different people. By the time I see Latino students at UCSB, they do not share the same sentiment. They are embarrassed to speak Spanish. They stopped speaking Spanish a long time ago, and they feel as if they've lost a piece of themselves. As advocates of ethnic studies here can confirm, if we give students a chance to learn their language and culture, they will excel so much more academically across all subjects. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Taj, to be followed by Robin and Hudson LaBarge.
Hi, my name is Taj Pascage, and I attended Adelante for 7 years. I'm currently a 7th grader at Santa Barbara Junior High. As some of our amazing students said earlier, si se puede, yes you can. This is the saying I heard most at Adelante. Adelante is so much more than a school for me. It's a home where I feel comfortable and supported by all the amazing teachers and staff. Adding another language and learning to read, write, and speak in Spanish and English has enriched my life in many ways. I learned about different cultures and different perspectives. Science and math were taught in Spanish. Of course, there were challenges, but my teachers always reminded me, "Sí se puede." Yes, you can. When I was in Spanish-speaking countries, I could feel comfortable speaking with the locals. Being bilingual has opened up opportunities to connect across language barriers here and outside the U.S. Vine aquí hoy porque quiero ver que más estudiantes en nuestra comunidad tengan la misma oportunidad de obtener una educación bilingüe como yo. Porque sin eso no sería la buena persona que soy hoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin and Hudson LaBerge, to be followed by Christina Humphreys.
Good evening. My name is Robin. This is my son, Hudson. I don't know if you can see him here.
Yeah.
We don't have any Spanish in our background at all. I am not even close to being able to speak Spanish, but I try. I try really hard, and I try to make connections with the families at our school that we don't have the same language, but we have the same bond and we have the same goals for our children. My son is in 4th grade. I had a conversation with him and some of his friends last year. The topic of maybe us going to a different school, a different campus was kind of coming up and circulating, and I had this gaggle of kids asking me, what would it be like? What would it be like to have our own campus? Would we have our own playground? Yes. Would we have our own cafeteria? Yes. Our own library? Yes, probably. They got so excited amongst themselves at the idea that they would have something that's their own. Where we are right now works, and I think for all of us parents, we accept it because there's no alternative. We choose to have our children there. We want to have our children enjoy the program. Your mission statement might as well be ours, with the exception of we would add excellence in dual language. But it is exactly what we aim to do there. And my child is excelling in his program there. Do you want to say anything? No. It took a lot just to get him up here. We really need to have a better facility for us. We are outgrowing it, and we want to expand our program to be inclusive of junior high as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Humphreys, to be followed by Isaac Bowe.
Hi, I am the mother of a 4th grader. I come from a small coal town in West Virginia, so I have quite a different perspective from everybody here. I specifically moved up from Thousand Oaks to send my daughter to Adelante. It's such a wonderful school. I'm also an attorney. I've done civil rights, employee rights for 17 years. To me, for my daughter and raising her, was important for me to immerse her into a school and a different culture than what she's grown up with, and to know another language. One of the concerns, because I want to be very brief, I could speak all night long about how great Adelante is that I don't want it to stop at 6th grade. And I've been thinking, what am I going to do after 6th grade? I want my daughter to have the ability to develop a mastery of the Spanish language like English-speaking students do through 12th grade. And so I've been thinking about this, and when I heard that Adelante might expand through 8th grade, I thought that's a great opportunity. And we'll be back eventually for high school. Because we're going to take this all the way through, because Santa Barbara needs a bilingual program that goes all the way through high school.
Isaac.
Hi, my name is Isaac, and I like Adelante because it's a bilingual school, and we do really cool experience, and the teachers are the best. They also are so friendly, and also we do the best field trips in the world.
Thank you, Isaac. All right. I have a name, but I have no idea. So I'm gonna, is that you? Okay. Can you pronounce your name when you get there so I'll know the next time? It will be followed by, to be named at this point, Brianna Aguilar.
Hello, my name is Xochitl Mendez, and I am a proud active parent at Adelante Charter School. As I was thinking about what to talk about today, so many memories flooded my mind of the special moments shared at Adelante. I have been a part of this school as a parent for 7 years and still have 5 more years to go. So believe me when I say I'm committed. Anyway, getting back on track, what does Adelante mean to me as a parent, and what does bilingual education mean to my children? As a parent of Adelante, I have seen how amazing, caring, and loving every single teacher and staff has been. I feel safe every morning I drop my kids off because I know they are getting excellent education. Let me find myself. Our director greets every child at the door every morning, which has helped create a relationship with every student and parent. That's one of many reasons our school is unique. We create relationships, we create a community where everyone has a little to give. We have created a village where everyone is accepted and loved. Just this reason alone, as a parent, makes me trust Adelante as a place for my kids to attend. We all know the benefits of bilingual education, as there is a reason why taking a foreign language is a requirement in high school. My children are blessed to be in a bilingual school, and it has opened up many opportunities for them. They have gained a sense of confidence when translating at a grocery store for someone who needs help. I'm trying to scramble here. None of this would be possible if they were bilingual. I know that being bilingual has already put them ahead in life, and I just wish more kids had this opportunity.
Tom? You can submit that to us.
Okay, I just want to finish this off.
Okay, Ms. Sochi, I know your name now, so.
Sochi.
You gotta wrap this up.
I just want to say that we do have facility issues. We need a library, we need a cafeteria, we need a place that our children could call their own. But if we have been doing so good this far, imagine how great they would be if they had what they needed. So
okay.
I, Xochitl Mendez, am committed to Adelante Charter School, and I hope you guys are too. Thank you.
Brianna, to be followed by Stacy Leiden.
Hi, my name is Brianna Aguilar, and I am a member of the school board for Adelante. I've been a member of the board since the day we became Adelante. I actually joined the board the day I found out I was pregnant, and so all these years that I've been working on the board, I finally get to have my children at the school. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, and I wish that this type of opportunity had existed when I was a student. So many languages in my family have been lost because they have not been supported by our schools. So I really hope that we can support bilingual education for more students beyond 6th grade. Our students are doing so many amazing things. I watch the work that they're doing in science, in reading, in writing, and if we had more facilities, if we had a place where our teachers could meet, if we had a place where our principal had an office rather than sitting on the school tables, because he's given up his office so that now we finally have special education in Spanish, and there's a place for our speech therapists to meet with students and teach in Spanish. But our principal needs a space to do his work. So please find a way to help support our school for us to expand from pre-K to 8th grade, for us to find facilities that our students can feel pride in knowing that this is their space and that they feel comfortable in, that they're not visitors on somebody else's campus, and that the resources that our teachers and the rest of our staff needs, that they have access to them to support our schools, our students to excel academically. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Leiden, to be followed by Christine Bosmore.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing us tonight. My name is Stacy Leiden, and my daughter is here, Samara. She's in 1st grade at Adelante's charter school. I wanted to tell you about everything she's learned, but I'm going to skip that because all the kids at Adelante are great and they're doing wonderful things. And let you know that in my professional life, I'm the Associate Director of Scholarships and Alumni Engagement for the University of California Education Abroad program. I am not here today for that, but I wanted to let you know what I've learned from 13 years in international education. Every year, over 300,000 American college students study abroad to learn new languages and become familiar with different cultures. When I was at UCLA, I did the same thing. These are valuable experiences, but they are very, very expensive. Spending a year studying abroad can cost over $30,000. Part of my job is to manage over $2 million in scholarships to help UC students with this expense, but I still turn away thousands of students every year. Furthermore, a year abroad is the minimum amount of time a student would need to gain fluency. Starting to learn a second language at a young age opens up so many more doors than relying on a junior year abroad. Students who arrive in Madrid or Mexico City with advanced language skills can get internships immediately, which allow them to build their professional networks. A bilingual education helps students make the most of their college careers and puts them at the front of the line for jobs after graduation. I hope more students in Santa Barbara are able to take advantage of the unique learning environment and bicultural education at Adelante.
Thank you. Christian, to be followed by Jason Dominguez.
Good night, my name is Christian Bosuel. This is my son, Borja. There are several things, advantages that we enjoy from bilingual education. It comes with cognitive advantages. Kids have more memory, have more skills in concentrating. So there's a lot that comes with bilingual education. Integration and socialization in kids is very important. Obviously, all parents, we care for that, and this is something that bilingual education provides to the kids. This also, of course, helps with our culture. We do live in a multicultural culture, and this also is very helpful. Benefits also, and I have to say this, it also goes to economic benefits. You know, half the market out there is in English, but the other half is up for grabs.
30 seconds.
I'm an attorney, I'm educated, I can testify to the academic excellence of Adelante, and I really, really hope that you do whatever it takes to give these kids and future generations the opportunity to to succeed and get their goals in this community.
Thank you. Jason Dominguez, to be followed by Allison Ford.
Hello, my name is Borja. I'm 8 years old. I am the school Adelante, and I wanted to say that I like the school Adelante because it's educated, it has a lot, and it's super duper cool experiments, and it's super good, and it helps me a lot, and every day I learn something new.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for putting me after the adorable 8-year-old. I'm here as a teacher, a Santa Barbara City Council member, and a supporter of Adelante. Thank you for supporting this gem of a school. I, like most Americans, am a Heinz 57. My father's ancestors are from Jalisco, Mexico, and my mom's ancestors are from Europe, German, Czech, Dutch, and English. And I have had the task to learn all 5 of those languages. English was pretty easy. I grew up in public schools, but it was the German, Czech, the Dutch, and the Spanish that we didn't have dual immersion when I was growing up, so I've had to learn them through books and tutors and colleges and high school, and I wish I would have had more. I want to ask you to keep supporting the school, work on better facilities. What I can try to help my colleagues at the City Council do is change land use policies. Someone talked about expanding and moving buildings, so maybe that's something the city can help facilitate. Please make the campus more sustainable, more solar. Anything you can do to environmentally improve its footprint would be great. And again, let me know if there's any way the city can help with permitting or anything like that. I'm really excited. I'm excited to see a lot of my neighbors and residents here in the audience. Again, the kids are just amazing. The other thing the city is trying to do is make our routes to school safer, to get more people to walk and bike to school. So please let me know if there's anything I can do to help on that endeavor. But most of all, thank you for promoting this school.
Thank you. Allison Ford, to be followed by Roxana Corona.
Good evening. My name is Allison Ford. I'm the mother to twin boys who attend Adelante. I grew up in California, was educated in public schools. I began taking Spanish as soon as I could and took it every year from junior high through high school. By the time I graduated from high school, I'd been studying Spanish for nearly a decade. By the time I graduated college. So when I began my teaching career, I got that job mostly because of my Spanish language credentials, but I found myself barely able to speak to the families that I was working with. All those years of study, in as much as study as I could get, wasn't enough to make me actually functionally proficient in Spanish. So when my boys began kindergarten at Adelante, they began speaking only English. And they've learned an amazing amount. Their fluency and ability in the language would put my whole college class to shame. Being bilingual is a gift for my boys, and it's something that's going to benefit them for the rest of their lives. And I want to be part of a community that gives this gift to as many children as possible. So I urge you as a board to work with Adelante and help us to expand our program.
Thank you. Roxana Corona, to be followed by Holly Gill.
My name is Roxana Corona Remigio. I am studying biological psychology at Santa Barbara City College, and I am an Adelante Charter School alumni. Not only did I graduate from Adelante Charter, but I also work with the AOK program. I take so much pride in attending a bilingual school. Not only has it enriched my educational experience, but I see how it benefits the students I am working with today. I earned my state seal of biliteracy. I get to help people in my community and benefit from it culturally. I was enrolled in Adelante Cesar Chavez at the time, so I would not lose my native tongue and stay intact with my culture. I remember in 2010 when Cesar Chavez was being considered to close down, my parents, my siblings, and my classmates feared that we would lose our school, our home, and our community. I see how important it is to every person here. Each teacher is so passionate about bilingual education, and I could not have seen myself growing up without it. This is why I'm here today, in order to help continue bilingual education until more students get to benefit from it. Our children are our future. Excelencia en dos idiomas. Sí se puede.
Thank you. Holly Gill, to be followed by Jared Schwartz.
I'll read this so it's quick. Hello, my name is Holly Gill, and I'm a parent of 4 children who attended Adelante Charter School. We live right across the street from the school, and my involvement started 12 years ago when my oldest entered kindergarten. I also work as a science education consultant here for the district and at Adelante. My children have been fortunate to attend Adelante and learn in 2 languages. A bilingual education has been one of the greatest gifts we could have given them. I see clearly how their experiences at Adelante were so formative, and it goes far beyond the cognitive benefits of learning in 2 languages, which are significant, and the parents who understand this fill our waiting lists every year. But it's much more than that, much more than just brain development. Dual language programs have shown to be the most effective in supporting English learner students. The research is very clear on this and has been the motivation behind my unwavering support of Adelante. This is an issue of equity, and as Director Bautista says, you cannot have equity in one language. A recent study done at Stanford in partnership with San Francisco Unified looked at the effectiveness of dual language programs. The researchers identified a group of about 18,000 English learner students who entered kindergarten between 2001 and 2010. They followed their progress for 10 years. The results show that while students in English immersion programs like our local elementary schools perform better early on, which is what we see here, by the end of elementary school and into middle school, students in bilingual classrooms not only catch up to their English immersion counterparts, but they eventually surpass them, both academically and linguistically. It's a really big deal. This is about futures. This is about long-term flourishing of kids.
Okay, thank you. To be followed by Amelia Aguil, final speaker.
Members of the board, usually I'm here before you in my professional role, but tonight I'm here as the parent of 2 third graders at Adelante School. I've long been an advocate for dual language immersion programs, but it was always an intellectual thing for me. I was familiar with all the research about the benefits of language acquisition, about long-term effects on the brain, benefits economically for competing in the workplace, and more. But everything changed for me 4 years ago when my daughters started kindergarten at Adelante. They entered knowing how to count to 10 in Spanish and knowing how to say some colors. But watching them over the course of the 4 months go from speaking no Spanish to playing with each other in Spanish, switching back and forth between Spanish and English, struggle to think of the English word for something they could name in Spanish, it was a powerful and emotional experience for me. As someone who didn't start speaking Spanish until high school and who still struggles with very limited Spanish, it amazes me that my daughters are now equally comfortable speaking and writing in Spanish and English, reading Harry Potter in both Spanish and English, and how they are truly bilingual.
30 seconds.
But most important and most powerful to me is that unlike many in our community who see English learners as a problem to solve, my daughters started their K-12 experience seeing English learners as brilliant, capable, creative students who they could learn from. We need more English learners to be able to benefit from dual language immersion program, but we also need more monolingual English speakers to have the chance to experience this kind of education as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mariela, Yo, our final speaker on this item. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mireya Gil, and I'm a junior at Santa Barbara High School. Since my time at Adelante, I have been enrolled in honors AP courses with many of my Adelante peers. I have attended Adelante Charter School from kindergarten through 6th grade. Adelante was unlike anywhere else I have been since. It is a true community, a family. I am still connected with teachers and students, and I know that if I walk through those gates any time, I will always be welcome there. But Adelante is not just a close community. I've benefited so much by learning in another language. It has opened doors for me. I'm able to communicate with others, with mi abuela, and for that I am grateful. I see bilingualism as an asset. I have respect and curiosity for other cultures and languages. But Adelante is not just about language. Adelante provided opportunities in science that have made my learning so much easier. There was a deeper focus on science and Adelante than at other schools. We have so many experiences that have helped us make connections, and now because of those experiences, can make connections and predictions easily in my science classes. I have a strong foundation that has helped us, but Adelante is not just about science. The most important thing I take from Adelante is how it has helped shape my identity. I'm proud to be Latina, proud that I speak 2 languages, and I care about social justice and the environment. And I am very aware that our schools and society don't always value this. My friends and I face discrimination and microaggressions daily, but because we attend Adelante, we know it does not have to be like this. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. That concludes our speakers. Madam President.
Thank you to all of our public speakers. Appreciate all of your comments. We are now going to have a report from Dominique Pascage and Dr. David Batista, Director of Adelante School.
Good evening, Chair President Reed, board members, assistant superintendents, cabinet, Santa Barbara community, or consortium of ethnic studies, brothers, sisters. We are here to present a sample, and I think they did very well, our students right there, about what is our school and what it does. It starts by history. And the history is not just the past years of what happened. It's the struggles of people with vision, Cesar Chavez, that with a new law, that case Proposition 227, we're thinking about how to maintain social justice for many children in our community, in this case, Santa Barbara community. They worked with a vision, and they were able to establish this charter school, which, in fact, not many states have charter laws. Thankfully, that at that point, California had a charter law. In starting with that notion of equity, culture, and identity is what this ethnic group is looking for. It's not only about language, and many of the speakers mentioned, it's not only about language. It's about who I am, where I'm coming from, and what is my story. The population continues to support the majority of Hispanic students, and one of our speakers mentioned that it's a win-win for all the population here in Santa Barbara when English-dominant families decide to provide an education for their children in 2 or more languages. The mission is entangled with the vision of our founders. And in this case, our founders, Cesar Chavez, they were thinking about equity, social justice, and dignity for all of our participants. In this case, the founders had a vision that this kind of education was a world-class education, not only in English. We have 16,000 school districts in the nation, and all of them are looking for excellence. But very few of them are looking for world-class education in more than one language. The enrollment uses a lottery in which we look at English-dominant students, emerging bilingual students that are already there, and Spanish-dominant students. It's not an idea that Adelante brought. It was in the first dual language program, Oyster Elementary School in Washington, D.C. in 1971, where the principal, Paquita Holland, looked at the Puerto Rican students' achievement gap and decided to go forward with a dual language program. And that caused the invitation of models in English and models in Spanish, in this case, Puerto Rican students. Yes, our statistics are small. We have 290, that's our contract. But the waiting list continues to be big, and there's no way to explain the parents that we don't have a place for their children. We don't have the place for the dreams that the parents want for their children. In this case, you have the numbers that you have in Santa Barbara, and the numbers that benefit in Adelante. That's the same number that happens at the national level. It's a tragedy. 50 million students in the K-12 education, 50 million. And 11 million students go home and speak a language other than English. Title III, which is English language acquisition by the federal government, only identifies 4 million students, only. And from there, there's very few dual language programs across the nation. However, there are many programs that not only are 2 languages, but 3 languages. The example of Alicia Chacon in Texas, a pre-K-8, in which they have required English, Spanish, and a menu of 4 different languages for the parents to choose from. So it can be done. This is the dream that the visionaries of Cesar Chavez started with, 39. That was the waiver in Proposition 227. And right here we are, standing the history of a policy that it was not a good policy for students, and it was repealed with Proposition 58 in 2016. The leadership at Adelante constitutes with 10 board members, 5 that have children in the school, and that gives me a pulse of what's happening in the school. And believe me, there's a lot of happening. And 5 community members that give us also a different vision of how important it is to become bilingual. Adelante teachers and staff is comprised of 31 adults. 31 adults that are looking for, all the time, a social justice frame of reference. Equity. The teachers are looking for more and more to understand about equity. We're not about putting ideas in the child. We are about making sure that the child knows how to use the brain. That's what we are about. And in that notion, we just look at the work of Paulo Freire in terms of educating, not confronting ideas in a animosity way. My background is 30 years of studying bilingual education. I have worked for 10 different school districts, and all of them with bilingual programs. From top Tucson Unified School District, it's one of the 100 in the nation, all the way to the second largest school in Oregon, and work as assistant superintendent of equity at the state level, in which we passed the biliteracy seal, 3 years working to passing that seal. Public support, like I mentioned, there's a change if understanding how to close the achievement gap is not by eradicating one language and hoping for the best in the other. California was the first state that passed in 2011 the biliteracy seal despite Proposition 227 in place. From there, 36 more states have acquired the biliteracy seal, and only 5 states have no plans. 5 states have no plans of the biliteracy seal. I'm going to get behind. Educational research is out there. You can see it. But more important is from the medical field and the support that gives to the different languages and the learning of the human being in that regards. Look at the neuroscience and how it supports biliteracy education. And absolutely, we are lucky to be in Santa Barbara with many organizations that want to support us because of the uniqueness of 2 languages. One right there, we have also Antioch University with student teachers, bilingual student teachers, all kinds of organizations, even outside Santa Barbara, that want to work with Adelante. So for that, we have the message from our parents that yes, we're lacking facilities.
Our director's amazing, isn't he? So here's a picture of the Adelante campus. It's surrounded by the blue squares. We share the Franklin Elementary School campus. And what you'll notice real quickly, I'll point a couple things out for you. They have double the students, approximately double the students that we have. They have over 5 times the space that Adelante has, and every one of our classrooms is a portable while they have actual buildings that are grounded. So someone mentioned in the public comment that it's definitely an equity issue, and we couldn't agree more. We feel like, you know, part of the mission that you have up there on the wall is to ensure the educational success of all the students in the district. But the 290 students who are getting a bilingual, bicultural education have substandard facilities. The things we need and the things that other schools have are a parking lot, space for special education, a cafeteria, a gymnasium, a teacher lounge, and some community space, outside space to play. If I go back one, you'll see that the space where our students get to play is right here. There's actually 2 more portables right here. We expanded 2 years ago to make sure we could have 2 grades per class. Our students play right here. We need additional classrooms, and we believe that providing an education from pre-K or kindergarten through 8th grade will help solidify the language and bicultural learning that our students need, and we know that the data supports that. So what are we asking the school board for? Right now, we've got ongoing monthly meetings to discuss opportunities and timelines for expansion. We started that 2 weeks ago with Superintendent Carrie Matsuoka and with Meg Jate, and they've been very helpful and forthcoming. We have another meeting on October 30th. And we plan to continue to meet, so we want to say thank you first and foremost for suggesting a task force working group and for getting that started. Our plan is to have the district review the current facilities, so I believe that that is in process right now, and we'd like to draft and present a collaborative plan to this board in December. We are asking for your support for the expansion of our charter renewal to include pre-K through 8th grade so that we can solidify the education, the bilingual education and the bicultural education that our kids are already working on. But right now, as some of them move into junior high, there's an opportunity for that to be lost because they go from a bilingual education into a monolingual education. So we'd like to do that. We'd like to expand from the 290 students. I believe, and I know our board believes and our community believes that offering 290 students an opportunity for a bilingual education in a predominantly Latino community is a travesty. We should be ashamed as a community and as a school board that we're only offering 290 spots. So we're asking for your support to help us to get pre-K through 8th grade so that we can offer this wonderful education to more students and help them to communicate with the growingly diverse world that we live in, to communicate with their families in the other countries that their families came from. And we're asking that, according to your mission, you say that the district is here to ensure the educational success of all students. So we believe that the success of our students would increase if we were given commensurate facilities with the rest of the schools in the district. So we're asking you to look at what's out there and available in Santa Barbara to see if you can provide us a better facility, and that you would help us find that and move to that facility within 5 years, which is the timeline for our next charter when that gets renewed. So thank you very much for your time and consideration. Si se puede.
You're finished. Thank you very, very much for your presentation and also for all of the public comment. Yes. So I'm going to turn to my board members and ask if they have any questions or comments. And I see Ms. Capps raising her finger.
Thanks to everyone who's here. I have the honor of serving as the liaison to Adelante. It's on the advice of Mr. Heron when I joined the board and I went to the graduation. And I'm so just continually blown away by your school and all that you do. And I particularly love the statistic that you put up about the fact that only 2.7% of our students are even allowed this. I'm all for the fact that we should be looking for as many opportunities as we can to have this kind of education for as many students who want it. Clearly they do, because you have a waiting list, 50 to 100 every year. It's such an amazing place, despite the fact that you're crammed in these portables. We know that the potential is there, the interest is there, the passion that I see from the parents. You're making that school what it is. It's really a gem of our district, and I'm really glad about the process that we're moving forward collaboratively to find where we can expand. I was at the meeting with Mr. Tay and our superintendent. I know that the interest to do so and quickly is genuine, and I'll do my part to help facilitate, to make sure that we come up with a solution that you're not only okay with but thrilled about, and it really is commensurate with the kind of education that you are providing these wonderful kids every day. So thanks for being here, and let's keep the process moving. And I appreciate that, again, the tone and the constructive way in which you're approaching this. And I think that's going to bode well for us coming up with a really solid solution very soon. Thank you.
Ms. Parker.
Thank you, and also thank you for all the public comment today and everybody sharing. And it's been wonderful to see the way this school has developed as Adelante. And I'm highly appreciative of what looks to be quite a collaborative conversation going forward. It will be for the next board, since I will be off this board when this comes back again in the future, to make any decisions about it. But I agree that it seems like there's a lot of opportunity here. I also hope that the next board will be working on the Proposition 58 piece, that there are a lot of families in our district that would like bilingual education that Adelante does not and will not have space for. And with that, we have a responsibility, I believe, as a district and as a board, to move forward with planning for dual immersion as strands in some of our other schools. I will also say, as the liaison to Santa Barbara Charter, that we have 3 charter schools in the district. Peabody Charter has permanent facilities because it was a neighborhood conversion school. And the other 2 charters, they were ones that essentially built up from scratch where there was space available that the district was able to give to them. And with that, both Santa Barbara Charter and Adelante have struggled with facilities over the years. And so I want to be sure when we're talking about equity that we're keeping Santa Barbara Charter in the conversation as well. And with that, I will turn it over to other board members.
Thank you. Mr. Paredes Ulloa.
Quiero decir, como miembro de esta comunidad a casi 40 años, me da tanto gusto ver una escuela en nuestra comunidad donde yo me crié, donde yo fui a la escuela, yo fui a la Franklin, donde hay una escuela donde es orgullo ser bilingüe. En mi día, si hablabas más de un idioma y el otro idioma era español, era desgracia. No era buena cosa. Te miraban como si eras menos de otra persona, ¿verdad? Y yo desde chiquito perdí mi primer idioma. Yo soy mis papás son también de Jalisco, México, y de chiquito, de pura chiripada, me pusieron en clases de puro inglés. Y eso me quitó mi idioma, para mí yo sentí que me quitó mi cultura, ¿verdad? Lo más grande que cuando fui a la junior high, la high school, eso es cuando empecé a aprender mi idioma de nuevo. Y ya como adulto profesional me da tanto orgullo poder platicar con mis papás, con mis abuelos, con mis primos, a platicar con ustedes, parte de nuestra comunidad, en un idioma que para mí es muy personal. Y para mí me da celos que ustedes son una escuela autónoma y que no son parte de nuestro distrito como Franklin, Cleveland, todo eso. Y ojalá que un día llegue el momento de que ustedes no sean la única programa bilingüe en nuestro distrito y que podamos seguir su ejemplo. Si sigo en esta junta escolar, voy a dar mi apoyo. ¿Sabe qué? Si no sigo en esta junta escolar, voy a dar mi apoyo a ustedes para poder hacer este programa más grande y como digo, ojalá moverlo no nomás en adelante, pero en otras escuelas, porque ese tipo de educación es muy importante, es necesario. Uno no puede sobrevivir en este mundo ahorita sin saber más de un idioma. Yo también estudié en Alemania, estudié 4 meses y me encantó tanto aprender otras culturas, aprender otro idioma y saber más sobre mí, descubriendo más sobre mí cuando estoy aprendiendo de otros idiomas y otras culturas. Entonces yo quiero esas oportunidades para nuestros estudiantes, para nuestros padres, para nuestra comunidad, para el futuro, porque eso es la cosa que nos va a rendir más orgullo, más buenas cosas, más buena fortuna. Y gracias a todos ustedes por estar aquí hoy. I will not be interpreting that.
It's all right. I could hear the passion. Ms. Sims-Moten, did you? I'm sorry, we can't have your comment right now. We're making board comments, but thank you. Ms. Sims-Moten?
I'm just going to trust on faith that you said what you said. I did catch a few words in there, but I just want to also support this effort, how important it is to how the ones who know English only don't have that opportunity to learn another language. I know personally when my son was born, I had him sit with someone who was predominantly Spanish, his caretaker, so I appreciate that and knowing how much more in the early development of the brain, how those dual languages actually activate a little bit more. So I appreciate where we're going. I certainly appreciate the tone in which we're taking, how we're addressing it to include everyone in terms of that, the needs, making sure that we're preparing our students for a world that's yet to be created. So I just want to appreciate that.
Thank you. And I would just say equity, culture, and identity, and social justice. And they kept coming forward. And again, I've said this before, but you're speaking to the choir here. And it's an amazing school. Obviously, what's so exciting is to see the passion behind the students, the parents, the staff, and to see something growing, so that we're not worried about something closing. We're worried about something growing. Now, that's a good thing, right? I mean, the fact that we have so many people that want to be in this school and have this opportunity. I mean, as you stated, you know, clearly the research supports it. It's exciting to see the opportunities actually for, as you mentioned at Antioch, we have teaching students, credential students who are coming, working, and they have reported back that this is the best place to be working, really. They get such a great support. Walking around the campus, yeah, like how crazy is that? I mean, I was trying to figure out where I was. Was I in Franklin? Was I in Adelante? It's like, okay, no, you're there. No, you're over there. So I do see clearly the physicality of the location and what needs to be done. I also want to acknowledge the process. I really appreciate the process and the co-constructing of that process, the collaboration that you want to bring forward this, that we can work together to figure out an opportunity for our students and for our community. And so I did want to I know that I hear from the meetings that some of our board members have attended, and certainly Ms. Capps being on a liaison, but I did want to find out from Ms. Jate, can you speak to the perspective of the district? I mean, are we to understand that there is a collaboration and a potentiality for this process to move forward in the way that they're hoping?
Absolutely. We've met, well, twice, once with your entire board and once with the team. And I mean, I think that's what's been said the entire time is that, yes, we understand the location of your campus. We understand the issues that you have, and we're definitely willing to work with them. And we have some ideas, and we're going to present them on October 30th when Mr. Matsuoka comes back.
Okay, well, I think you can hear from all of our comments, and certainly now from Ms. Jate, that we want to learn more and we want to work together, and we're hoping as a board that we can move together to support the students in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving forward to report discussion agenda item number 2, we're going to start with public comment for discussion of incorporating ethnic studies as a graduation requirement and first reading of board policy 6146.1, high school graduation requirements. And Ms. Carey will be coming forward, but we'll do public comment first. We'll let her sit for a little bit.
Okay. Just as on the previous item, we have several speakers, and so we'll be reducing the time to a minute and a half so that we can make sure that we accommodate everybody's request to speak. The first person we have is Marguerite Goldston, to be followed by Jackie Hamer.
Hello, I'm Marguerite Gregston. I'm a longtime Santa Barbara local, well, as long as I've been alive, and I frequented many of the school board schools, and I'd like to say thank you for the quality education and just the quality facilities that I got to attend. I would also like to comment that I think a part of what would make my experience a lot better in high school is if there had been more ethnic studies available, and especially if it was required as a graduation requirement. I think that's very important in a place especially like Santa Barbara, where our race lines are so integrated yet isolated, where you can be in a community that you're surrounded by only white people, and then just go down the hill in Sutherland and you're in a bustling Latino community. And I feel like that's not really acknowledged very much, especially to the children. And primarily me being white, I would like to point out how I think it would help white children understand and connect and develop and understand different communities and understand different histories. We're only taught white history, but there's a very, very complex history in every single culture. And if white children are only taught their history and not taught the others, they will learn to fill in the blanks themselves. And the blanks that we are given are very often racist and bigoted and biased. And I think it would be better if we got more direct information from the people that we are living around about the people we're living around. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Hammer, to be followed by Len Shoemaker.
Hi there, my name's Jackie Hammer. I want to start by saying that I really appreciate everything you have done. I have spent time reading through the board packets, reading through letters, and all the time that you put into this obviously speaks from your heart, because if you're here, your heart's where children are. And it was so awesome to see kids tonight. And I want to thank all the folks here tonight that you keep coming back to these meetings. And it's late, and I'm going to get up tomorrow morning, and I'm going to teach second graders. And I just want to say that I recognize the importance. And I recognize I have to go to the place of the heart. And I think for the rest of my time, I just want to be silent. And I want everybody just to sit with their own heart. Our hearts beat together all the time. We all breathe together. We all live together. We got to take this walk together with our hearts like this. Thank you.
RJ Biscayne, to be followed by Lamont Stiff.
So hi, my name is RJ Biscayne. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, and my family's been attending schools here since the early 1920s. I went to college in the Bay Area, and I was a high school ethnic studies teacher there. So I bring with me some experience on developing ethnic studies programs and bring with me insight on how they work and what makes them successful. So today I want to ask specific questions to the board and Sean Carey, who will be giving the presentation around what the vision and mission will be like for Santa Barbara specifically. So my first question is, what is ethnic studies? Attachments online didn't really specify that. And I think sometimes ethnic studies is reduced just to the impact in the numbers and what it does for students as a positive impact, but you think way too ahistorical. It's a 50-year anniversary of ethnic studies for the strike of ethnic studies at SF State. And I think this is not the first school or the first place in the nation where it's been developed. And I think we have to acknowledge the history and the roots and the context and the purpose of ethnic studies as a whole. Secondly, I didn't see anything in the report in regards to any funding plans. So is there going to be a guarantee of long-term funding for this program? If we study ethnic studies programs across California and how they've been implemented, there's always a lack of funding that becomes a roadblock, right? So I hope you all fund this long-term because it's going to determine the success of it. And lastly, how will you work with students, specifically students of color, to help develop and contribute to the making of this program? Because ethics studies should always begin and end with youth voice.
Thank you. Lamont Stiff, to be followed by Milo Hensley.
Hello, my name's Lamont Stiff.
And hello, my name is Kono Fujino Hamakis, and we are here to support Ethnic Studies Now on behalf of the Dos Pueblos Black Student Union.
Last year we had 2 incidents involving both students and teachers involving the N-word, and we believe that a racist incident like that could be prevented in the future with the ethnic studies.
So that is why we support Ethnic Studies Now, not only because we believe that it will help educate everyone and everyone else's cultures to prevent incidents like that from happening again, but to help educate us on our own cultures and traditions that have often been lost. Thank you.
Thank you. Milo Hensley to be followed by Sage Gaspar.
Hi, my name is Milo Hensley. This is a little short for me, but I'm a junior at Dos Pueblos. So I just came from a rally for trans visibility in response to the Trump administration's effort to redefine gender as biological sex, which is inherently oppressive to transgender and to gender nonconforming people. And the Trump administration's hate and oppression towards not just the LGBTQ community, but also to immigrants, women, the disabled community, racial minorities. This isn't a standalone issue. This hate that we see so rampant in our country today is a symptom of a larger ignorance, which stems from a lack of education. This is exactly why we need ethnic studies now. I'd like to bring up one of the most common myths about ethnic studies, and that is being that it is anti-white or in some way only beneficial to students of color. This program is basically beneficial to everybody, and I think white students have just as much to gain from this as anybody else does. So to conclude, let's recognize that anybody who stands in the way or is against ethnic studies as a graduation requirement stands against what this community clearly needs and what it has demonstrated that is necessary. So thank you.
Thank you. Sage Gaspar to be followed by Walid Afifi.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sage Gaspar. I am a former Ethnic Studies Coalition organizer and a current Ethnic Studies major at SBCC. Future transfer to UC Santa Cruz to continue my studying Ethnic Studies, and I am here to urge the school board to implement Ethnic Studies as a graduation requirement. Here speaking as a community member and as an older sister for someone who's in high school, and here to say that ethnic studies, time and time again, has been proven to improve the quality of education for students of color and all students. It improves, ethnic studies improves the quality of education. It promotes cultural proficiency in education, in the curriculum. It promotes cultural diversity. It promotes inclusion.
30 seconds.
I just would really want to urge the school board to implement ethnic studies as a graduation requirement. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Walid to be followed by Mitzi Perez.
Hello, school board. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. I'm here because I'm a dad to two daughters in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. I'm here because I have a PhD and I'm a professor in the Department of Communication at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and the director of the Center for Middle East Studies there. And I'm familiar with the literature on the benefits of exposure to ethnic studies courses. I'm here because I'm a Middle Eastern immigrant whose story shows up nowhere in my daughter's classes. Their experience as the children of an immigrant shows up nowhere in their classes. I'm here for my friends in the LGBT community with a particular emphasis tonight on the T part of that acronym, my trans friends. I'm here as an ally for communities of color. I'm here as someone with an interracial background. I'm here as a Palestinian, as a Muslim, and as an American. I'm here because I'm in awe of the strength of the people behind the Ethnic Studies Now movement, students included, who have suffered and who have organized to make it so that we're having this conversation tonight. I'm in awe of the youth in this room, and I'm in awe of the youth that I teach every day, and the youth that my daughters are sharing classrooms with. I'm here for my daughters. I'm here because my daughters have a 20% chance of being raped and a 50% of experiencing some form of sexual violence in lifetime with not one course required that empowers them with knowledge about rape culture. I'm here because my 12 and 14-year-old daughters are already among the girls and women who have experienced sexual harassment. They do not have one course required that empowers them to fight against that harassment. I'm here because the LCAP report summarizing the performance of the Santa Barbara Unified School just concluded that, quote, students of color continue to comprise a disproportionate amount of total number of suspensions and expulsions, but we're fighting to get one single course requirement that might educate those same students of color about the barriers of sex they face. I'm here because the data show that 1/3 of our students in the Santa Barbara School District are white. We are fighting to get one single course requirement that empowers a non-white experience. Thank you.
Mitzi to be followed by Zal Smith.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Mitzi Sarai Perez, and I am a local to Santa Barbara. I'm also currently working for Just Communities as a youth organizer, and like many youth in our community, I experienced some scary experiences here in Santa Barbara being a person of color, growing up in a mixed status family, and growing up working class. Those same things are still happening today, and they become even more evident when I read about frightening messages that our students are receiving from their peers, such as the recent incidents in Dos Pueblos and San Marcos High School that have heightened racial tensions. In schools, we often do not have those spaces to talk about these issues, and if we do, it's for a short amount of time. I wish that as a student in the school district, I would have been provided with more of those spaces and more time to process. I wish I didn't have to go to college to learn more about myself and learn how to name these experiences. In my job as a youth organizer, I still hear it today when I work with youth and they tell me about the discomfort that they feel in their classrooms and their schools. I wholeheartedly believe that ethnic studies would play a vital role for the growth of these students, both on a personal level and academic level. I believe this will give youth that boost of hope, positive self-esteem, and a space to dialogue about their unique experiences. I urge you to allow ethnic studies into our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Zal Smith, to be followed by Lauren Mendel. Zai? Okay. To be followed by Lauren Mendel.
Hello. I'm here as a local member of the community, as someone who would have benefited from ethnic studies as a student at high school and throughout my experience. And I think its time has come. It's kind of baffling that it hasn't already gone through. And I just want to echo, it needs funding when it's passed. It needs the proper attention to curriculum from everyone who knows these stories and can give to them. So I encourage you to do everything you can to listen to everyone here and give us all a better community for each and every one of us.
Thank you. Lauren Mendel, to be followed by Nastasia Schnell.
Hello, my name is Lauren, and I'm here to urge you to put an ethnic studies requirement for high school graduation. Like Zach, I could have used one when I was growing up. I was very fortunate to have some teachers at a young age. In the third grade, I had an instructor who taught me about things, about the ugly sides of our country's history. And because of that, it's allowed me to engage in conversations that it would have been a lot harder if I hadn't had that education. It's allowed me to understand the world around me and not react to things from a place of fear and hate. And so this has not only improved my life, but the lives of people around me. And it's because I lucked out with the teachers that I had growing up. We heard about how multilingual curriculum and multi-ethnic curriculum is so great with the charter
30
schools.
seconds.
We should be doing this in public schools as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Nastasia, to be followed by Chelsea Lancaster.
Hello, thanks for having me here. My name is Nastasia. I'm here to urge you to have ethnic studies as a graduation requirement. I know a lot of my friends and we went to public school. We didn't have such a requirement. I might have had some contact and some background, but most of my friends didn't get to have, pardon me, I've been rallying all day, didn't get to have these experiences until we went to college. Not everyone gets to go to college. Right, that's a privilege. It's become a privilege to be able to have perspective on race and ethnicity and the struggles that people go through, and that's really a shame. We should be allowing that for everyone, and not just for those who can afford college, not just for those who get past that wait list to get into a special charter school. It should be for everyone, and I think once we do that, we can see people coming together and having these tough discussions and being able to build a better community that includes more voices. So, thank you.
Thank you. Chelsea, to be followed by Victor Reyes.
Hi, I'm here clearly in support of an ethnic studies movement, a graduation requirement, a movement that is led by youth, a movement that centers people that are closest to the pain, that need to be closest to the power in terms of informing what this looks like. Impact matters much more than intent, so I'm hoping that this is going to move forward, but I want us to be really clear about the impact of this if we don't do it right, if we don't invest money. Show me your budget and I'll show you what your priorities are. This needs to be a movement that's funded, that is, again, led in a radically inclusive way by the activists who started it. They need to be paid for their labor. These have been folks that have been organizing for over 3 years, wearing many hats in our community as organizers. I also want to challenge us a little bit when we talk about tone. I feel like, you know, when kids are up here singing songs, we're willing to engage in that conversation about multicultural spaces and how important that is. But Neil deGrasse Tyson said we spend our entire lives teaching, or we spend the first years of our children's life teaching them how to walk and talk, and the rest of their lives telling them to sit down and shut up. So I really want to ground us in the fact that these youth are leaders in our community. They're smart. The youth are hungry for it. It's the adults that are resistant. So we really need to ground ourselves in our biases and make sure that we do this right. It needs to be led by the people who are closest to the pain. Thank you.
Thank you. Victor Reyes.
In English, the long and winding road that leads to this door. Hi, I'm Victor Reyes, and I have something to share with you. It's a video that was made in 1947. Jorge Santayana said something that I'd like to add something to it. He said, those who cannot remember the past, and I'm going to add, learn, because we are in education, are doomed to repeat it again. Right? Well, I'd like you to listen to this video. I wanted to show it right here, but I couldn't. Hold on a minute.
You got 30 seconds, Victor. Gotta work it out.
I'm going to stop it, but basically it is showing racism back in 1947. And it's happening again today. We're seeing it today. You have seen it last year at the high schools. We've seen it this year with the sign that Trump made famous again. What is it?
Thank you.
Make America Great.
Thank you, Victor.
You're welcome.
Sarah Mendenson.
Can't forget my lunch.
Okay, thank you. Sarah Mendenson to be followed by Andrea Medina.
Hi, thank you. So I, like many other people here today, was recently at the rally for trans rights in the face of Trump's recent memo to try to erase our existence. And while I was there, I was thinking about my own personal identity in the LGBT community and how it affects my education. Instead of being able to completely focus in learning, I'm forced to explain why this memo was so harmful to me specifically, to my community, to my other classmates. It's not my job to educate my classmates. It's my school's job to educate my classmates. Not only would that benefit students in the LGBT community, students of color, disabled students, it would
30 seconds.
It would benefit them in the future. What happens when our legislators have been educated in cultural proficiency from day one? how might that affect our government in the future? And hopefully we won't be doomed to repeat the past. Thanks.
Thank you. Andrea Medina, to be followed by Patrick Gason.
Buenas noches. I'm Andrea Medina, Director of Just Communities International. When students see their culture and themselves reflected in curricula, it strengthens their connection and relevance to content being learned. It includes their voice and allows for them to be seen. Students who are not part of that culture get an opportunity to also learn about others and find strength and opportunity in diversity. I've seen the motivation and interest sparked by culturally relevant curricula, as we saw today with our fabulous Adelante school. Through IEE, we've worked with several hundred Santa Barbara Unified educators. We've seen growing levels of understanding of the importance and value of cultural relevance. Teachers are not only bought in, but they want the support in creating and teaching such content. Teachers have shared that teaching curricula is not engaging students year after year is placing a toll on them, and it lowers their own motivation as educators.
30 seconds.
Adopting ethnic studies will support them in learning to teach that content. Because of the work that you have been doing for the past 10 years, we know that you're very well positioned in issues of equity that will allow you to bring together a group of parents, students, and educators that can draw from their own experiences in our community to build a strong ethnic studies committee. I've seen how engaged the Ethnic and Gender Studies Committee at the Santa Maria Joint Union High School District is and how they work on co-creating strong, proficient courses for all students. Let's not be afraid of change. Our community is ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Final speaker, Patrick Brixton. You get to be last.
So I've been a parent and a taxpayer in this district longer than you've employed John, including when he was a gym teacher. And when my kids were on that playground, that's how they learned about ethnic studies. Just now imagine, that's how they learned about sex. Okay? You've already heard this evening at this podium someone express how learning how our history has been unjust is somehow divisive. We know that's not true. If we don't know our history, we can't address it. Okay? Similarly tonight, you talked about having the privilege of completing the commitment to what's been really a 30-year dream about the Armory. Your participation in this issue is no less an effect on what this town will be like 30, 40, and 50 years from now, because everybody will have an understanding much better of who they live with.
30 seconds.
So I ask you to not just, of course, hear this crowd, but hear a whole bunch of old white guys like me who would love to see the things promised in the Declaration of Independence be made true.
Thank you. That concludes the speakers on this item, Vice President.
Thank you for every speaker that we've had this evening. We'll actually call up Ms. Carey to provide the report, discussion of incorporating ethnic studies as a graduation requirement, and first reading of Board Policy 6146.1, high school graduation requirements.
Good evening, Dr. Reed and members of the board, Ms. Jate, Dr. Ramirez, and Dr. Becchio. I'm here to present to you a recommendation to incorporate ethnic studies as a graduation requirement. I'm proud to represent the district in bringing this recommendation forward. I will not bury the lead as promised on June 12th. We said we would be bringing this to you for your consideration during the fall. And I will just clarify with this slide that you'll see the word in the more extensive attachment, you'll see the words incorporation and addition used fairly interchangeably. I want to clarify that we're, and I'll further clarify this later in the presentation, but incorporating the graduation, an ethnic studies graduation requirement is not going to add to the total unit requirement or credit requirement for earning a high school diploma, and that there are a variety of ways in which a student could fulfill the proposed requirement. We'll also take a look at board policy. This report is also serving as a first reading of the board policy on high school graduation requirements, so you can see how that would actually manifest in board policy. I would refer you and any community member who might be interested to the June 12th report. It is cited in the report for tonight, but there are some just high altitude themes that I wanted to reinforce to accompany tonight's report. One is that this movement that is very robust locally, and we have been, I think, very privileged to have such community activism and vocal representation here both tonight, in past meetings, about ethnic studies or about topics that are not directly about ethnic studies but that have relevance to the themes that we are interested in bringing forward the recommendation on ethnic studies. This is not, though, just a local movement. This is something that we see as a national movement. It's a movement happening in Sacramento and with lots of debate and discussion in the legislature, and also one that we've paid attention to regionally in our own neighboring districts and counties. We know that there are districts throughout California that have ethnic studies as a graduation requirement. There are others that have mandated the proliferation of ethnic studies courses, and there's really just a whole variety of multiple districts that are active on this front of incorporating and proliferating ethnic studies courses and incorporating graduation requirements. I've already made mention of community partners, ethnic studies now being the most prominent for this particular issue, although certainly moving forward we would be wanting to be as inclusive as possible in inviting lots of different community partners, including student leaders, into any processes on development of courses and evaluation of any pilot coursework. I'm really grateful to the board and grateful to the leadership of our superintendent for elevating, I would say, elevating and formalizing the work of cultural proficiency and equity, which our district has been engaged in for a long time, as has been cited here tonight in multiple instances. But in the September 25th board meeting, when we had, and it's referenced here as well, when we have the diagram is what comes to mind for me to just sort of point you there, that really illustrates this idea that cultural proficiency and equity is not one thing, and the recommendation to incorporate ethnic studies as a graduation requirement is a powerful statement, and it would be a powerful move toward developing greater cultural proficiency and more culturally proficient schools and overall a more culturally proficient community. But it is one of many steps that we need to take as a school district and as a community to ensure that we do have a socially just, equitable, and culturally proficient community. So I'm grateful to the board for reviewing that and being so receptive to that framework. I think it is essential, actually, to frame the ethnic studies project in the broader framework of the work that our district needs to do, to ensure that we're always marching toward greater cultural proficiency and equity overall. And then I really want to single out the High School Graduation Requirements Committee. This recommendation can't come before you without having gone before that board-sponsored committee. That's a committee that I will just celebrate for having been revived and reconstituted and repurposed within the last couple of years, and amidst lots of issues to consider and to give priority to. I will relate, and three of you have actually served on that committee. I will relate that this is the issue that very much surfaced as the one that had the highest priority. So even though I'm here before you, I represent that committee and the efforts of that committee as having given this the highest priority of those issues those multiple issues that committee has been considering, and then specifically a subcommittee of that committee that is specifically focused on ethnic studies, and that does have we have Dr. Reed on that committee, myself. There's a teacher voice. There are community voices on that committee, and it helps. Those voices have all helped to inform our process to date, and will continue to advise our process moving forward. So I just thought it was important to give a little more detail about sort of where we've been, especially locally, as relates to this recommendation. Through a lot of conversation and a lot of learning, I will say, in all directions, we've settled on an approach that, well, several things. We've settled on just some values related to this recommendation, and those values are transparency, inclusion, and flexibility. So we know that the time is right for an ethnic studies graduation requirement to be incorporated. We also know that, albeit one class, incorporating any graduation requirement is a big deal. It does have a significant impact, to quote a former speaker. And so we want to make sure that we do it with the utmost transparency, inclusion, and flexibility. What we have settled on as far as the approaches to take around those core values are that students would have the option, the proposal is that students would have the option of fulfilling the grad requirement in one of three ways. And I would just add at this juncture that just because you can fill it in only one of these three ways, we actually are quite excited about the fact that the vision we have for this would allow a student to actually take multiple courses in the field of ethnic studies and thereby create kind of a strand experience, something that even in districts where there might be a single ethnic studies grad requirement or course, it would be, even there, it might be that students are mainly waiting till post-secondary experiences to have that kind of strand or themed experience. So the first way would be the elective survey course. The vision for this is that it would be two one-semester courses. So you can think of it as a year-long course, or you can think of it as two one-semester courses whereby a student could take part, the fall version or Ethnic and Social Justice Studies 1, Ethnic and Social Justice Studies 2, or the 1-2 combo. And that would hopefully provide the flexibility that we know some students need in terms of designing four-year plans where they do or don't need to fill a semester need or a year-long need in their four-year planning. And those would not be redundant or duplicative, but would actually be able to be taken as standalones or together. So that's the elective survey course option. Then we have another sort of body of options that we're calling core integrated. So some of these exist already. Actually, an elective survey course exists already that we would hope would inform the development of elective survey course. I'm backing up, sorry about that. And the same, we have a social dialogues course currently in our course catalog and taught at more than one of our high schools, our traditional high schools. The same is true for the core integrated course option. Courses like Mexican American Lit, Chicano Studies, courses that already occur within English Language Arts and social science. But actually we're looking to not only keep those, but potentially enhance those, make those more coherent district-wide, but also to add to that offering. Specifically, we're recommending implementation of an English 9 Ethnic and Social Justice emphasis course with both an honors and college prep iteration. So that would be what I would highlight for number 2. And the third option is one that that I think sometimes we risk taking for granted in this community, and that is the very fortunate option we have of multiple rich dual enrollment choices. And we're already in some beginning conversations with faculty at SBCC about that. We do have current USD students through the PEAK program who do take ethnic studies classes, dual enrollment classes in the summer bridge. And so with that partnership already exists, and we are very optimistic and eager, actually I would say on both sides of the dual enrollment agreement, to expand that menu of options and provide yet another way that students can meaningfully fulfill the recommended grad requirement. So timeline for implementation, pending board approval, the work to be accomplished during this school year that we're in does include executing strategic communication and planning. It is something that is, again, not a small deal to say this is something you must fulfill in order to receive a diploma. So those are things that don't happen often, and they must be thoughtfully considered, and they must be communicated appropriately to all stakeholders. And they must be communicated to stakeholders in the timely fashion, and particularly what I'm talking about is those students who will be coming into high schools who are doing that planning for their 4 years and toward their diploma and post-secondary plans. I think it's important, and there's been some reference of this tonight, for us to conduct a capacity and needs analysis to secure the resources that would ensure high-quality implementation. So I've been very heartened to hear a really balanced message in engaging with internal and external stakeholders, that as much urgency as there is around bringing the recommendation forward to incorporate this grad requirement, there is just a, I would say, relentless insistence, and I really appreciate that it be done in a high quality way. And so we don't want to compromise one for the other. It's important to kind of hold both those things, and we need to kind of do an analysis of how are we situated in relation to both those demands as a district. We're committed to engaging partners, multiple partners in course curriculum development. We, again, have the benefit, we're well situated in this district to be able to avail ourselves of post-secondary institutions of learning, as well as community agencies, as well as our own students and staff when it comes to developing not just the curriculum, even though it says that here, but also other processes related to this project. And perhaps most ambitious, we aim to immediately, pending board approval, begin developing the 2 courses that we hope to run next school year in anticipation of the graduation requirement coming into effect. Beyond this school year, we would be wanting to pilot, this is going to sort of flesh out what I was saying on the prior slide. The top line here, the Ethnic and Social Justice Studies course, is the elective course that I mentioned, the 1 semester course iterations, and the other one we would hope to be piloting would be the English 9 Ethnic and Social Justice Studies emphasis, both the college prep and honors version. So beyond 1920, I mean, the real work from board approval on, the real work will be, in addition to the communication pieces and the partnering, will be really course development to begin to roll those courses out, and then in subsequent years to be able to continue expanding, refining, and evaluating and monitoring what we perceive and envision as expanding course options to fulfill the requirement. I just built a slide for questions, comments, and discussion, so I'm available to you for your questions, comments. Oh, no, I have to do one more thing before I am. I want to be able to put up on the screen the board policy, so I have to turn to Mr. Rouse to help me with that. And even though it pains me to say it, I have to point out a minor error that we can correct, but I want you to make sure that, that I do note it. So you'll see here, this is the board policy 6146.1 on high school graduation requirements. If you'll scroll down, Mr. Rouse, you'll see that there's actually some red strikeout language there, just because we were overdue in updating this board policy, and you'll see that there's nothing too earth-shattering there, because it's the things that are already in the rearview mirror. We've already passed those years. But if you'll scroll down to the most pertinent piece, that is as item number 9 there. So we have, you'll have your English classes, your science classes, your social studies classes, and on down PE, 1 semester family health, and then we have their 1 semester course in ethnic and social justice. That should read 1 semester course in ethnic studies, and that may seem like a small difference, but it's really important to me, members of the subcommittee, and just for clarity in general with all of our internal stakeholders and everyone, that when we talk about ethnic studies, it's the broad term under which multiple courses would fall in order to fulfill the graduation requirement. And when you hear in a local context, at least for us, ethnic and social justice studies, we're referring to that proposed elective course that would be one of the courses through which a student could fulfill the grad requirement. So that we caught that anomaly down below where we mentioned ethnic studies, but we didn't catch it in the list there. And so I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that that should read 1 semester course in ethnic studies. And then Mr. Rouse, if you'll scroll down, you'll see that, go ahead to the most pertinent part is the very bottom part there, where we add it to the course list, so it is listed in the same way all other courses and all other subject domains are. It's spelled out there as 5 credits, but it's also, we're still at a total of 220 credits overall, and with the note that ethnic studies can be fulfilled through the successful completion of a qualifying course, and I've made mention of some of those in this report. And with that, I'm available for your questions, comments.
All right. So I want to thank everyone who is here who provided public comment again, because it is so important to hear your voices and to be a part of this process. I also want to thank Sean Carey for her diligence and guidance and leadership on this internal journey that we have been on. And I'm just, before I turn it over to the board, I feel, because it is something that I'm very passionate about, that when I joined on this committee, that I was hoping that we could get to this place through the collaboration of all of you here in this room, with certainly Ethnic Studies Now. I want to reference their leadership and their drive and their diligence and their support of this effort. I just have to say a few words because I feel I have to, and I will. So I believe strongly that classrooms today require teachers to understand ways of educating students varying in culture, language, abilities, gender differences, and many other characteristics. A culturally responsive environment utilizes students' culture for a vehicle for learning, and this indeed reduces alienation and thus creates a more inclusive culture. So my belief is to facilitate this type of 21st century global learning environment, that educators need to embrace different pedagogies as well as develop curricula that mirrors the diverse students in their classes, all of which has been stated. The importance of developing this high-level curriculum, which Ms. Carey has referenced, that is interdisciplinary in approach and that highlights intersectionality, is crucial to this process. So it must be all of these pieces together. Research does show, and we do know, that this does engage students in taking up this knowledge. Yes, we have our mission statement behind us that says to empower students to be productive citizens in a diverse and changing world. We're hoping to shorten that mission statement, but at this moment in time, this is the one we've got. But that's key to this whole comment and to my movement forward in what I want to say. As we know, this is not a new concept, as it has been something in the district has been dedicated for and to for many years. However, what has mobilized this effort has been the students, a huge student force, and also community organizers, as referenced by Ms. Carey, led by Ethnic Studies Now Santa Barbara Coalition. And I want to acknowledge them again. I believe the passionate, forward-thinking advocacy to create an ethnic studies requirement has played a critical role to get us to this juncture in time. It's important to note that when I joined the Graduation Requirements Committee, it was so that I could better understand the process necessary. I didn't want to be on the sidelines not knowing what needed to be done. And my goodness, a lot needed to be done. There's a lot of work that has gone in this process. It is not a minor feat. And also what was mentioned earlier, if we want something to work and be sustainable and be successful, we need to do and have internal structure around it. And we also need a process of providing community engagement in that process. So this process has not been quick. It's been thoughtfully framed and choreographed, but what's important to note is that we do have a cultural framework in place now as of September 25th. So the district is committed to a framework that has 6 domains that support this. Professional development, curriculum and instruction and assessment are just 3 of those domains. So this is a part of a process that the district is committed to and that the board has supported. We have actually supported in concept this framework. So as part of this implementation process, I want to also state strongly that I strongly support Ethnic Studies Now statement that they made that students, parents, teachers, UCSB, SBCC, Ethnic Studies professors, and many community groups that represent various factions in this community. So we're talking about all community groups that are involved, that Pacific Pride, the ILRC. We have multiple community organizations out there that should be a part of this process. And Further, I want to state, before I turn to the board, it is also important that the crucialness of this process is to provide opportunities for ensure that we do due process. And we're diligent in making sure this implementation process is transparent to our parents and the community. So we have to bring everybody on board. We have to ensure that what we're doing is shared and transparent with everyone. So I'm passionate about it, obviously. I, again, appreciate the Ethnic Studies Committee we've spent weeks going through this, the Graduation Requirements Committee that supported it 100%, and I think that's something that's very important to note. So I will turn to my board members for questions and comments to you, Ms. Carey, and I am actually just excited that we could be at this place today. Ms. Parker.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments, Dr. Reed, and I won't echo them, I just embrace them. And so I'm going to be quick and brief. Since we have the BP up right now, if we could go to number 9, it looked like the recommendations from the high school graduation committee is that this be in full effect for the class of 2023 and beyond. Is that correct, Ms. Carey?
That was what the graduation requirements committee is recommending.
So I would suggest that on line number 9 that we add for the graduating classes of 2023 and beyond, comma, 1 semester course in ethnic studies and social justice. Just that mirrors the language that we have earlier in the policy for other requirements that we have brought in. Quick question on the ethnic studies and social justice survey. Would that be an A requirement for UC?
G.
That would be G.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'm just hoping that that as courses are developed, that we're getting as much in A and B as we can. And then, and then doing G, certainly I want all of our students to feel like they are moving forward in practical applications for their UC CSU transfers or UC CSU applications. What other question did I have? I know.
And we'll keep researching that. We've been researching other districts. There's a lot moving right now. And so we're, I would say our research efforts have been redoubled recently.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm optimistic that we could look into that further and that might change.
Great. And the last point I want to bring up is while this doesn't have an effect on our students being required to take more units, it will have an effect on student enrollment in elective courses. And so as much as there's the address here of teachers in certain academic disciplines, the side effect will be that there will be fewer students able to take career tech, arts courses, things like that. And I'm actually less worried about funding for the Ethnic Studies Now program, because if it is a high school requirement, it will be funded. My concern is that the spillover effect is that there will be less funding for other elective courses. And so I'm hoping that we can be mindful of that and include our elective teachers in this conversation now, so that they are thinking about how they can integrate with ethnic studies and social justice courses. So with that, I'm afraid I have to depart, as my board knows, and I won't be able to hear my fellow board members' comments. Please know that I will watch you. And will we be seeing this for action at our next meeting?
Pending the will of the board.
Well, that's my last meeting, so I hope I get to see it.
And if I could just comment briefly on the elective, we were very thoughtful about that. We feel like the 3-pronged approach will go a long way to mitigate that. That the elective survey course may well kind of fit into the same footprint that it currently has, and that by having the core integrated approach, especially with English 9, another theory around that was the earlier the better. That will give good options, as well as the dual enrollment, which we see some students opting to do either during the school year or outside of the traditional school year. So we thought of that, quite thoroughly, but it may still have impact.
I do want to say, Ms. Parker, that one of the things we did was play devil's advocate, that we were all Ms. Parker, and we're like, well, what would Ms. Parker ask? And I want you to know that we're very pleased with your questions. Thank you. Anyone else comments? Mr. Paredes Ulloa.
I also want to echo the appreciation for Ms. Carey and the Ethnic Studies Subcommittee with Dr. Reed and Fabi and all these other community members in there. I'm a little jealous I wasn't allowed in there. It's okay. Capacity met, I get it. But, you know, seeing the reports back have just been so insightful, just so well thought out, and I hope that we continue making these efforts intentional, well thought out. I love the idea of collaborating, partnering to make sure that this is something sustainable. Along with that, I really appreciate the conversation we had at our last meeting where we brought forth the requirement under course requirements as opposed to other requirements. I think the conversation, for those of you who weren't there, at that meeting really surrounded kind of the idea that if we put under other requirements, it's something that could really slip away. And this is something that's very, very vital as a history major myself. It's so important to know whole history. Whole history creates a whole person. And I think it's important to be able to bring that to our schools. I personally hope that it doesn't stop in high school. Hopefully it goes back. I'd love to see a pre-K version of ethnic studies somewhere down the line, all the way to 12th grade. And hopefully we get to the point, in this district especially, where we don't have to call it ethnic studies, where we don't have to call it anything, we just call it history, because it includes everybody in the room, and it talks about all the contributions, all the rights, all the wrongs, and just teaches about people. I know El Rancho Unified School District is doing a lot around ethnic studies and integrating it into cooking classes, math classes, and I can't even tell you what else, and art, of course, and to be able to bring that to our students as stewards of education in this community, it's very important to be able to provide the very best for our students, and that includes enriching their experiences with giving them diverse perspectives, making sure that they understand the world around them, because as the new potential mission statement says, we're trying to prepare them for a world yet to be created, and I think this is one very small step on that. We have to keep pushing on that, and I know I've said this probably a million times up on this dais, but I really do believe that the introduction of ethnic studies, hopefully, again, sooner than high school, is going to go a long way towards creating more safety in our district, just like the social emotional learning, the cultural proficiency, same thing as having our safety coordinator. There are multiple pieces to one goal, and again, I just want to end with appreciating Ms. Carey's leadership on this. I think we couldn't have picked a better person to really guide us, and again, thank you to everyone who's been on the subcommittee.
Ms. Capps.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short in the interest of time, and thanks for everyone for being here. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of the process. Today's world is so divisive, painfully so, and there's so much to feel distraught about. I know there's been references to other generations, but it's kind of hard to imagine a time that's not this, that has been more divisive of this. And I feel like, thanks to all of your leadership and to the leadership of Ms. Carey and this committee, this is something to feel hopeful about, and not a break from the dissidence and the distraught feeling that I get when I watch the news every night. And I only wish that a previous generation had ethnic studies and where we might be now. But I want to again thank you and applaud your leadership. Because of you and the pushing and the insistence and the passion and the organizing, my son who's 7, his generation will. So in this school district, I just wanted to say thank you.
Ms. Sims-Moton.
Yes, I won't echo comments as Ms. Parker said. I'll just embrace all the comments that came before me. But I also do want to say thank you for this process. How important it is in terms of that, and how much work it's taken to get us to this point. So thank you for all the work that you've done to get it there, and certainly thank Ms. Carey and then Dr. Reed with regards to the subcommittee as well. This has has a very personal appeal to me, and understanding how you have to know yourself in this world and how important it is for other folks to know themselves in this world. And therefore, if we know each of ourselves, then we know all of ourselves. And it's all of us that has to do this. And I think, I had the opportunity, and what I wished would have happened, I had the opportunity in Texas, and it was a requirement for ethnic studies in the 12th grade. And I appreciate, no matter how difficult that conversation was that day, that time, but that whole half of the year, the last half of the year, it taught a lot of things. And I got to see other folks who had a different opinion, who had not walked my journey. But I got to see how and why they came to that conclusion, because they didn't know. But I need to hear the other side as well, so that I could better understand what perspective they were coming from, so I wouldn't be under assumptions. But we have to see ourselves. We have to see it in the print that we do. Therefore, then we take that, and that leads into a conversation, that leads into a dialogue of understanding. And once you hear someone's perspective, you begin to listen and to take it in. And so when you're hearing those difficult or opposite conversations, it's not so personal. It's like, okay, we're trying to get to a better world here. And today, with this process, today starts preparing our students and our community and our world, because we're preparing these for a better world. And we have to start here, have the courage to do it, have the bravery to have difficult conversations, because they are very difficult. I live with this every day, and I want to understand why we're still talking about it. So what we have to do, we have to come together and figure out, how do we make a better America in terms of that pieces. We are so much better than what we are today. But we've allowed, I think, just a lot of outside things to distract us from what we know is right. And sometimes standing in the right, you take a big risk in doing that. But we have to, I'm proud to be on this board, to stand in our truth, in our integrity, and that we want to make this world and prepare our students for a world that we haven't created. But we have to start today, so they will know what it can look like. We've talked about several visions that's 30 years in the making. So we start this. We don't want it to be 30 years in the making. We want it to be the next day, it's going to be better. Each day we're going to be able to take what we heard tonight, the conversations that we had tonight, and be better tomorrow. So we've got to scatter this information about how important it is for folks to see themselves in that book. It's not one-sided. It's a dual site. It's a dual site. And this is very personal. Again, I don't want, with the risk of repeating myself, it's very personal. It's just as personal for me to see my grandkids don't start that too early, RJ. But my grandkids to be able to see, a better world, for me to be able to do that, to be as a board member, being part of this leadership. When you see us, when you talk about Santa Barbara Unified School District, you see us. You see everyone. So I just want to appreciate all the hard work. I'm ready, I'm excited for this, but I also want to appreciate the process it's going to take to make sure that we're doing it right. And don't, as you said, Ms. Carey, in terms of not one versus the other, we want to expediently get it done. We want, but absent of quality, we cannot have, because we don't want to come back and wonder if we just take a little bit more time to make sure that we get it right. And we can be a school district that gets it right. We can be a community that gets it right, because we have to want to do that, and not just in this room, but we also have to take within ourselves. And I don't want to feel like I'm preaching, but it's just so personal to me in terms of that. But it's so personal in the sense that every day that we have to take responsibility for each of ourselves and our thoughts in terms of how we move forward. So I just want to appreciate this effort, and thank you for allowing me to spill that.
So I really feel like I need to acknowledge Fabi there in the back, and she's been this amazing voice, but she tells it like it is, but she's got the passion and the heart and the soul, and it's been a pleasure to work with her. And to Sarah, who has supported this, Sarah Bazan, on the committee, and Kevin McKee with his voice of reason. Are you guys crazy? And then turn around and go, of course we got to do this. So I think that it takes a village for us all to get to this place. And it's, again, when we talked about the armory, but here we are, this is about soul, this is about our world, this is about, this is about the people who are going to take care of us, right? So it's a privilege to be on this board, to be connected with this board, and I think what I'm garnering from the comments that all of us are saying is that, and if board disagrees with me, let me know, but I think we would like to have this as an action item to vote on at our November 13th board meeting.
Okay. I will bring it forward.
All right, well, there's still more meeting. You're welcome to stay. All right, so moving on to number 3, update on Dos Pueblos Engineering Academy Career Technical Education Pavilion Project. Ms. Jate is going to give us some highlights.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So as you may remember, the CTE Pavilion, they went out for 3 applications for the CTE Technical Education Facility Program. And these are grants from the state of California. They got, that was for a total of $5.1 million. They got 2 out of the 3 grants, and that's totaling $4.2 million. The arts, media, entertainment media, and manufacturing and product development was accepted. However, the computer science was not. The district is required to also match these funds, and that will be taken out of Measure I, which is the secondary bond program. We thought about adding additional money to that to fund the computer science part of it, but that has been taken off the table. We're not going to be funding that. We have some infrastructure, regular site work, and it has been divided up by the media and the DPEA. The media is 69%, DPEA is 31% of that, and that's about parking and lighting and asphalt and underground utilities and landscape and such. So then we had a meeting the other day with the DPEAF, the foundation, and some architects and Amir. And so we had a discussion about what they were willing to do. And basically the conclusion was that, and I had to get the architects to kind of draw a little diagram. So think about 4 boxes, okay? And in between each one of those boxes, there's a plus sign. Okay, I had to get this visual. So they were like, okay, this first box is the basic, what I just kind of talked about. The media is X, the DPEA is, and it comes to about $4.2 million. So then you take that, and what the DPEA Foundation wants to do is start raising money to then get to maybe the next box. And then maybe a little more money to get to the next box. And so, and each one of these boxes is labeled with like a part of the project. So what they want to do is they want to hire an architect to design the building as if all of those boxes would be done. So all 4 boxes. And then as they raise money, they will know which next level they can go to. Or if they don't, what they're out is the money for the architect. And they're all willing to do that. So they want to design it as if they're going to get all of the money, but then back off if they don't. And they'll have to reach these the money in a certain time limit so that they can get it. And it'll go through DSA as approval for the whole project. And then, so then we can downscale it if we have to. But it's not good to go, oh, we want to go to box 1 and 2 and then take it back to DSA for 3 and 4. We want to go 1 through 4 and get DSA approval on that. So the timeline for all of this is that on November 13th, you will have the MOU or a draft of the MOU. Approval, that's just to approve the timelines, I believe, and the approval of the contract for the KBZ architect to do the CTE pavilion. On December 15th, the transfer of $250,000 from DPEA to the district towards the architectural design. Then we'll start on the selection of the builder under the leaseback. And by January 31st, 2019, another transfer of $250,000. So the DPEA's half of the architect is $500,000. We plan to submit in April 2019 to DSA and hope to get out by fall of 2019. Winter of 2020, transfer of funds to the district prior to notice of proceed to build with the construction. And then February 2020, hopefully a groundbreaking ceremony for the CTE pavilion at DP. And I'll try to answer your questions. I've been partially involved with this and not fully involved, but Mr. Vizzolini has been in the meetings that I have not.
Thank you, Ms. Chate. Do we have any questions that rise up at this moment or comments? I think it seems pretty clear.
Good.
Thank you. So we'll look forward to seeing that on the November 13th agenda for approval.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Or a draft of
Or
the
a draft of the
MOU.
MOU.
Maybe approval of KBZ, the architects.
All right, moving on to report number on budget revision for bond measures I and J. Ms. Chate,
Thank you.
call you up again.
I know, it's crazy. So I've asked Mr. Vizzolini to step into, we're going to kind of tag team this if you have any questions. But this is a bond budget update for today. Keep going, Brian. Can move to the next slide, please. Okay, so just to revamp that, we had November election for our bonds, the elementary, which is really a school facility improvement district, an SFID. 58 million, and then the Santa Barbara Unified, which we refer to as the secondary district, is 135 million. So these are the projects that we completed in the summer. You've seen this. We're probably a little further along on the DP High School track and field and San Marcos restrooms. I think maybe closer to 90% finished.
Yeah, we actually got the Dos Pueblos base was approved, so now it's fine grading and they're waiting for the turf to show up. So that's pretty exciting. We're expecting that to be done within probably 6 weeks, maybe a month.
And what about the San Marcos restrooms?
San Marcos restrooms, they're just about complete with the C wing. They've given back the 2 H wing and the cafeteria. They came out great. They're really, really nice. They were big improvements. And they are going to begin work on D wing as soon as they're done with C. So they're already mobilizing for that part.
Good. So then the next slide is fall 18 and summer of 19. These are the projects that are in process and at different levels of process. I don't know if you want to speak to any of these, Steve, or
maybe one that the board probably would be excited about is the fact that we are actually going to be moving forward with Las Flores. we had a job walk last week. We had several people show up, so we're expecting to have a bid closing in about a week, and so we'll award a contract. You should be seeing that pretty soon. The building is being constructed. They anticipate that the building itself will actually be placed in a day. So the site work is going to be a little longer than that, but we'll get that contractor started as soon as we can.
That's really exciting. We've had a long haul on that one due to different situations.
Does that mean, I'm sorry, is that finished 11-1 or that's beginning 11-1?
Las Flores?
Yeah, finished.
No, Las Flores is, it's an empty lot right now.
Yeah,
No, she's
but I'm just
asking
wondering
is
about the date of November 1st, which seems around the corner.
I believe actually, it's not even an RFP. We did a design bid build instead because it was a timing issue with getting the portable in place.
Sure.
So that date's a little stagnant, but we did already have our job walk. Bid openings are expected next week, so we'll have a recommendation for the board next meeting.
Okay, just to clarify, that last column, that's when things begin?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so this is the budget summary. So what we've come into with the escalation, the cost of construction, we went back, and you have the full sheet in your packet. We went back to their original budget, and you may remember, I think it was, the original budget was in September of 2017. And then what we did is we thought we could do better in the contingencies, so we reduced them by 7%. Well, we're finding that's not going to be the case. So what we did is we went back to the original budget and we added back the 7 and added 5. So now we've increased the budget really 5 from the original. We're just coming into, one is the demand on the workers, the contractors. They're spread thin. There's not a lot of people out there. The cost of tariffs, the cost of lumber, the cost of concrete, all of these items have gone up. So we felt that we needed to revamp the budget and really get a truer cost estimate of all our projects that we need to do. And
Mr.
so
Chair,
this,
can I ask you a quick
yeah,
question?
sure.
So the revised Measure I budget, is that back to the original, or is that?
This is our new budget with the original plus 12%.
So, excuse me, original plus 5%.
Original plus 5, that's right.
The 146 is the original plus 5%? Yes or no? Or is that?
The revised Measure I budget is the original plus 5%.
Okay. So then when you talk about bond capacity, how are you making up the 11 million?
Okay,
I got ahead of myself. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
And bond capacity, I want to be clear, is how much bonds we can tax our community.
Okay.
That's what bond capacity is.
Okay.
We have billions of dollars worth of bond capacity. So we won't be doing billions of dollars worth of bonds for sure, but that's a different term. This is our, and there's the term bond capacity, so I apologize for that. So that's our bonds is 135. So you see there's a nexus of $11.8 million, and you're going, well, we're overspending in Measure I by $11.8 million.
Right.
Our projects adjustments are things that we thought we were going to have to do, but aren't. And the only thing that comes to mind in the high school is, I can think of a couple in the elementary. What was one in the high school?
High school, LaCoumbre Junior High drainage. We had an initial assessment by the people who did all of our site work, and they wanted to redo the entire storm drain system at San Marcos. The real issue was flooding in the auditorium. So we did some mitigation work in a December that we had a flood, and we ended up having to get carpet replaced. And so what we ended up with was a redesign of the area, some localized changes to the storm drain in the area, a bigger grade. And we made some changes and put a curb there. And basically we went through 2 huge rains in Decembers and had no water in the auditorium anymore. And there's no more issues at LaCoumbre that we could find. So that's that was a large number. That was one point. I don't think I have that number in front of me. It's well over $1 million.
Yeah,
so
and then
those add up.
Yeah, and
That's
then
what those
San Marcos was another drainage that we had an issue with the culvert running through the field and then flooding our neighbors below. And so they've been watching that. They unclogged the culvert, and we haven't had any. So those were $5.8 million worth of projects we thought we were going to have to fund, and we didn't. So now we're down to $5.9 million. And basically what we do is we have a 10% contingency plan in the budget added into those numbers. They're included in those numbers. And we put that in there. as a placeholder in case things get really bad, but currently we're not using our full 10%. So we feel that we will have some savings there of about $6 million, which brings Measure I budget surplus to $78,000, which is a sneeze in construction. It's, I mean, it could be one slip one way or the other. But if our contingencies work out better, then we will do more projects. That's all there is to it.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but so the $6 million that's in projected savings, was that a part of the original 10% that you put away when we first came in? So it was always $6 million?
No, because,
So what was it what was your initial 10% contingency?
It was a 7%, it was a 10%, then we reduced it to 7%.
So what we did is we have 10% of the total construction costs was our contingency fund.
Yes.
Based on our usage, we were at 21%. That's what our historical data with all those completed projects you saw, we're running at about 21%. We're at 0.9% at Peabody Stadium. So we're doing pretty well on our contingencies, right? So what we did is we were a little conservative. We set our use, instead of putting it at 21%, we put it at 40%. So that leaves a 60% buffer between our total contingency budget and what we think we're going to use. That's what that number is.
Okay, just trying to
So we're
show
doing,
the history part.
so
of
in
it.
his example, we're using 21% of our 10% contingency.
Okay, that's just
And
not
that's
that
where
clear.
that's there, yeah.
Okay.
It's a hard thing to explain.
Yeah.
So with the elementary, it goes the same way, only we're, that's a Measure J budget surplus. That's 2.1 million. No matter how many times you look at these slides, you can always see mistakes once you're sitting up here.
Can I just ask you, whereas the revised budget is 146 on the I and our bond capacity is 135, but on the Measure J, they're almost equal.
Yeah.
Is that?
So we don't have massive projects going on in the elementary at all. I mean, first of all, secondary is always going to cost more because they're bigger facilities. They have different things, football, soccer things. So with the Measure J, we don't have those types of big projects. We have a lot of portable replacements and things like that, but we don't have a multi-purpose room with locker rooms in the flood zones like we do with Santa Barbara Junior High, like we did with Peabody. We don't have those massive projects. And so we're much closer in the elementary. Plus, we had some savings also of, contingency savings on that also because of, and savings also in projected saving, adjusted.
Right. The other thing I would point out is the project adjustments also have savings for all of our completed work that didn't use the rest of that contingency money. So the two MPRs at Harding and at Roosevelt that came in under budget, that figure is in the projected or the project adjustments. So that's helping the cause too. So each time that happens, that money goes now back into the program.
So with that, to add on to that point, one of the speakers today, I think, I don't remember her name, was talking about the solar panels. Is that something that would be considered in the projects that were underspent? Do they go back and get revisited at that point?
We can certainly talk about those kinds of things, yes.
Yeah. So what we plan to do is every time we say, we're going to put this in our contingency bucket. And if one goes over, we're going to pull from that contingency. When we come to the end, if we have money or we get closer to the end and we think, oh, we can afford to do this, we're going to do it. Or we'll bring suggestions to the board and they will decide to do it. Okay, so what's next? We're going to sell some additional bonds. The money is going out pretty quick, and with the purchase of the armory, we'll go out. That's a big chunk of change. So it's time to sell bonds. So we're projecting to go out in February of 2019 and sell $20 million in the SFID and $50 million in the secondary. Today, we've met with our financial advisors and Morgan Stanley, and we've gotten the tax rate. We feel we can keep the tax rate in the same area as we had initially estimated back when in November of 2016. Today, we got a phone call from, the tax bills have gone out. So we had a lady call us today, and she had done the math on her tax bill for Measure J. And we were looking into this and doing the math ourselves, and she was correct. It was above what the tax rate was. And I had just met with these financial people saying, and everybody's like, yeah, we can do it, we can do it. So we don't know exactly why this happened at the county auditors, but we are in communication with them, and I expect to have an answer tomorrow about why that was. But we have a feeling it was in their calculation. And I don't think that they'll revise the tax bills, but they will, you'll see that in the future bond sale, that dollar amount will go down in the future bond sale. So in the overall, they'll get their money back, or less. They won't get it back in a check, but they'll get it back on future bond sales. So, any questions?
I think Ms. Sims Moten asked all of them. So, unless we have any further, I think we'll thank you very much, Mr. Vizzolini and Ms. Jate. We'll now move on to report number 6, first reading. Report on Santa Barbara Unified School District sustainability, Mr. Vizzolini.
Yes, good evening, Board. I just wanted to provide a quick update to the Board on our sustainability practices and what we're doing in the district, what we have done and what we are continuing to do. So some of the things we did early are digital control systems on our heating and air conditioning systems that save a lot of energy, pool covers that do the same, and we've also we replaced a bunch of irrigation controllers, so now we have smart controllers that use the rain and weather to alter our watering patterns, so we've saved 30% on our water across the district. Some of the things that are ongoing are Prop 39. To date, we have 2.7, almost 2.8 million received. We have gotten all of our funding. We are in the last year, as the Board may recall, we grouped together years 4 and 5, so Goleta Valley and La Colina Junior High Schools are in process. They're actually being worked on probably right now, literally. So that will be done by the end of the month. Quite an extensive program to replace really old lighting in many of our classrooms. So we're expecting to see about a 40% reduction in energy costs. Some other benefits are that there's no maintenance cost on LED lighting. Right, there's no ballast, there's no lamps, so our maintenance department will be impacted less by that. Another benefit is that school sites will no longer have to afford their own fluorescent lamps. So that's been a site cost for a long, long time, and that went away. So schools like Franklin and Adams and Cleveland, they don't have any fluorescent lamps to replace anymore. So that's a nice savings for them. We've also had some controls included in the LED packages. So there's motion detectors and dimmers that are now in all classrooms and in the big multi-purpose rooms. So the motion detectors are great. When there's nobody in the room, they shut the lights off. They do have an off delay so that, if a teacher's sitting there working, it doesn't just shut down immediately. But it's a big savings. People have probably been by at night, you've driven by a school and you see a bunch of lights on. That doesn't happen if there's nobody in a room anymore in all those classrooms that got done. The dimming is a nice feature for our classroom teachers. They're able to adjust the mood, so to speak, in their room, but they're also able to take advantage of ambient lighting so that if they've got a lot of windows in a space, they can dim the lights and save energy, which is even more of a benefit. Another place we've reduced or improved our sustainability is we've reduced putting what we've added to the waste stream. So, by recycling, it's really become popular, and our communities are embracing it. So it's nothing uncommon to see, recycling bins all over campuses, and how much trash we're producing has really gone down. We also have a food scrap program. So our food services director, Nancy Weiss, is in she's working with the city and with Marburg, and they are collecting food scraps. So instead of going to the landfill, they are being picked up and they're taken down to Oxnard to a composting plant, and they are actually repurposed and put back into the community for farming and for landscape professionals. So that's a great program. Bottle filling stations are another sustainability thing that's really popular in the district. So over the past probably 3 or 4 years, the maintenance department has put in over 50 of those. So there's a couple at every school, and some of the high schools, I think all the high schools have probably 4 of them. Couple major benefits: the kids are not drinking, things maybe they shouldn't be that are sweet and have, this is a healthier choice, right? So they're filtered and refrigerated, and they're extremely popular. The usages, they have a scrolling counter on them, and you can see they go through them very, very rapidly. And the maintenance departments take care of the filters, and we stock those. We don't charge anybody for those, so we keep them up. We've also cut down on the single-use plastic bottles by doing that, so that's had a major effect. We worked with the Community Environmental Council, and they actually started this program with us and donated a few of the units, but they also, especially with the elementaries, they donated multiple use containers for free or for very, very inexpensive. So kids have something, a vehicle to go back and refill with, so they carry that around with them. Electric vehicle charging stations. So this is a pretty popular thing, and obviously will become much more popular. So we've been working with the Community Environmental Council and with Southern California Edison to start doing site assessments to figure out what our infrastructure looks like and where are some places on the district parking lots where these charging stations could be put that will allow people to use them. We're working with the Air Pollution Control District, who has some grant money available to actually purchase some of these units. And we've also talked to some of the partners in the industry, like SharePoint. Peabody uses them, that has a charge per use type of thing. We've identified a couple of what we call low-hanging fruit. One of them's right out here. So I'm sorry to inform you that you guys' parking space might get moved over here someplace, but that one, that spot is the ideal spot, and we're actually just going to do that with our own. We're looking into getting a partner for purchasing the unit, but it's a real simple spot for us as far as infrastructure and installing. It's a simple deal. So that one, we probably have that thing done in January. We're also looking at La Cumbra. There's an area out by the cafeteria that's very near the power room. It's a single spot we could designate for an electric charging station. So that we're pretty excited about that. And I think those things are going to happen pretty quickly. Future locations, the DPCTE building will have a charging station that's required now by DSA because we're building a new building with a parking lot. It has to be included. I guess I could have. Sorry. Let me catch you up. Sorry about that. So we're doing that, and then the student lot this summer is getting renovated, and so we're going to be forward thinking, and we're going to run the utility and the conduit out to that parking lot while we're doing the repaving job, so that we have we're going to do some thought about where those might go, and we'll run something so that when we want to expand, it's in a local installation and not having a trench across the school. We'll take care of that as part of the bigger project. Other places we've identified with the help of CEC are the Franklin Adelante area, Cleveland, and Santa Barbara Junior High are all in an area that they want to target to try and get these installed to help the community, to help everybody in general. Solar and power. So as we talked about, solar's a big thing, so we have put that back in the junior high multipurpose building. It will now have solar on the roof when it's done. It's not going to be an add alternate, which we originally planned. We were thinking cost was going to be an issue, but it's become important enough to the community and to us that we need to get that done. So that is going to be happening. Our modular buildings will become in the same way. They're all going to be constructed and solar ready, and many of them will have it. Depending on where they sit on a campus, there are some that are a little challenged because they're under a tree, where it doesn't pay to have that extra cost to install it for little feedback, but that's something we're looking at. The last two, solar parking lot lighting is a little interesting. We found a couple of companies that actually make a parking lot light that has a battery pack in it and its own solar panel. So it runs on the batteries at night, and during the day, it charges its own battery, so you don't need any power to to the grid, you don't need anything to your infrastructure. And so we're thinking about finding a pilot for something like that and seeing how well they work. There are some parking lots that could probably use a little lighting augmentation, so if they work well, we may be coming back to you with some of that. The last one is kind of interesting. It's a little different. It's called off-peak power storage. So the idea there is that, similar to that battery in the light, we purchase batteries that would support a whole building or possibly even a whole campus. And the idea is that you charge those batteries during off-peak times when the rates are low. And then when the rates are high, you pull off the grid and you power your school with your batteries. And you keep that cycle going. So it's got some great advantages because the power is less expensive. It also gives us an option for eliminating generators and using those as power backup. So during days when we lose power, we aren't going to be off and have no internet for the kids to use. We all know technology is huge right now. So when they lose the internet or data, it's a tough day, right? So I think that may be a possible solution. And then I think I heard somebody say this morning, or excuse me, earlier, you know, we're in the, it seems like this morning, you know, the idea that Edison now has the ability to shut down our power in a wildfire or a potential wildfire could have a big impact on us in the long term. So this is definitely a possibility that we're going to look into.
I would like to look into that for wherever we're printing checks on payday. Because when we go down and we lose power like that, we will not be able to produce payroll. And so that's something we've talked about, getting generators and things. So generators are really expensive. So it'd be nice to have maybe our North Campus solar so we can continue paying our employees.
Right. I talked to Todd Rickman a bit about maybe this place is a good spot for it, because then we would have the data center protected and we would also have all the cold storage for our food services people protected in the warehouse. So that's a big investment in product. So if we lose power for a week, what happens, right? We rented a generator over, during the T fire. So, excuse me, Thomas fire. Anyway, so that's our update. Is there any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for this report. I think it's really great to bring a report on sustainability. I feel like this pull coming from Ms. Capps over here. Not quite sure why, but I'm sure she has a few questions. But I just wanted to acknowledge to have this report and have this as an ongoing, provide us with ongoing information referencing the sustainability projects that you have in place. But I believe there might be some questions. Ms. Capps.
Thank you, Mr. Vizzolini. Yeah, it's really nice to have this all in one place and to sort of get an assessment of where we are, and then, as you might imagine, where we can build from here. But I had a couple questions first. Just when you do talk about new modular buildings being solarized, what are we talking about? Is it 10? Is it 50?
Oh, I think that if they're located in a spot that has electrical benefit, right? We're going to get some benefit from the sun. Then I would say many of them. That's the goal. I mean, obviously, budget is going to be a concern, right, at some point. But as we saw in our presentation, we're doing better in the elementary district than we thought we would be. So that may be a place where that supports more of those being done.
Okay, great. I mean, I do want to reiterate that Superintendent Matsuoka did make a commitment publicly when we met with the City Council that all new buildings with this bond funding would be solar. I know that it was iffy there for a while at Santa Barbara Junior High, and I was not happy when I learned that it wasn't, when solar was taken out. So if you could just be diligent about communicating when that commitment. If there, obviously if there's practical reasons and a tree is over a building, I'm not going to stand here and say we have to do it, but I do believe that we should honor that commitment, especially that it was made in front of our City Council, which is quite supportive of us doing this as well. So basically, new modular buildings will have solar unless you present otherwise, is the running understanding that I'm going
I think so, and
with.
I don't think that's going to be a huge number of buildings that are going to be not effective.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask too about, you said something in your presentation about potentially installing solar at La Cumbre and San Marcos High School. Is that on existing buildings or on new buildings?
It could be both, right? Depending on, I don't think we can construct any new buildings on La Cumbre because we've got seismic issues and some other things to concern ourselves, but the main roof at La Cumbra is a really well-protected area. It's the big L shape of the main building has a lot of space. So we are actually evaluating that to see if that's a good place to put solar panels as just a separate project.
Okay. So that's just kind of in the let's see how this goes phase.
Well, we're going to do the assessments for sure. And, you know, any place that we find that we can do it reasonably and we can get supported with grant money, we'll certainly follow through on that. You know, we'll have to come back and talk about those things. But yeah, the direction is that we need to look for the opportunities.
Great, and I can tell you, and I know you've been flooded to some degree with opportunities coming at you, but this community is so ripe with opportunities. In fact, I just heard this afternoon from a foundation locally that specifically solarizes public buildings. They're just working at Girls Inc. in Carpinteria, and they're saying, what can I do to help? They'd seen this on the agenda. So there's so much opportunity and desire for this to happen. So I don't want there to for us to ever not do something because we couldn't figure out how, because the how is really there for us in this community. No, don't need to remind you that Earth Day was started here, and it's really part of our DNA. I do want to, I think this is great, and it's important, and the fact that you even gave a number that, 40% of our energy is reduced thanks to this LED lighting, I want to encourage you, those kind of numbers are really important to track. I know that's what you and Mr. Tay do, but it's really important for the community to also understand sort of the cost savings, because this is no longer, in my mind, like an ideological issue of renewable versus fossil fuel. It's really an economic issue, and I was appreciative that one of our speakers earlier cited the information, because there's about the savings that are happening to the north of us, the south of us, and they're true. Sometimes you think of renewable energy as something that only wealthier districts, maybe in Silicon Valley, can do, but in fact, Santa Maria did save about $150,000 last year by putting in for solar in existing buildings, and Oxnard has saved about $500,000, and they actually have done the great step of hiring an energy efficiency coordinator to work with somebody in your position, because that's been shown that a position like that in districts, including Monterey, saves multiple times over, because that person is looking for those kind of grants and is skilled in this kind of area. That would be something I'd be very supportive of. In fact, Monterey just put something out that since they hired their energy efficiency director or coordinator, they calculate that they've saved $12 million in the last 9 years. So there's a lot of money to be saved. I think that, again, this is helpful and really great, and I'm all for what we're doing and communicating what we're doing. I do want to put, though, that it is in the context of a city here in Santa Barbara and in Goleta that have both made commitments to be 100% renewable by 2030. So here we are at 2018, and we're not even 1%, right? So I think that we have a lot of catching up to do, and this is great, but I want to be as much of a let's keep the urgency going kind of advocate for this type of work, because we are facing a crisis, a climate crisis, and action has to be local given the national environment that we live in, and places like Santa Barbara need to be forward thinking. And we also need to send that signal to our students that this is a planet that we care about. And so a charging station, when their parents are dropping them off, sends a signal that's a very important learning one. And I know that school districts around the country who have gone solar, who have done all these measures, they actually, because they've saved money, they can also incorporate some of these, some of the new technologies into their learning, into their STEM learning. I mean, you think about, we just talked about DP and what's happening there, and then the two things sort of go hand in hand. So I'm also glad that you brought up, and you heard from our speaker today, the safety argument for and rationale why this is so important. We saw during the Thomas Fire and the mudslide that our schools are a center of gravity for this community, and all of the updates that were given by county officials at San Marcos High School, the way in which our school served as kind of a nerve center when so much else wasn't functioning, and we are at the end of the Edison line. If we moved and relied less on fossil fuels and more on alternative, our schools could be even more fortified as that center. So I think that that's a very strong imperative. This is, again, not just something I'm going to keep bringing up pretty much every meeting, but it's something that the community really cares about. There's a petition going around that Community Environmental Council started. I know that they have about 100 signatures stating sort of why aren't we running on Sunshine yet? Because it's about time, and I'm glad you're in this position, and I hope that with this report today and all the things that you've got generated in the last since you've been in your position since June, I just hope that you can be a leader for us in this regard, and I will do everything I can to help, including charging my car when we get a charging station here. And with these 6-hour meetings, I could charge it about 3 times over. So it'll be great.
Well, I would just like to assure you that we are taking this seriously. There's
Thank
been
you.
a couple of things that have changed. One has been the mindset from a design standpoint that solar always had to be grid neutral, had to pay for itself.
Right.
That's not sustainable. In a lot of our places, our high schools, our electrical footprint is massive. And we'd have to have every single roof covered and a parking structure on every single parking lot, and the cost for those structures is huge. So I think the idea that it has to pay for itself 100% maybe needs to be rethought. We need to talk about saving money. So that's one thing. And just to kind of maybe give you a little confidence toward the end, we found out today, actually, that Volkswagen has a grant program that they're going to try to roll out, where they're going to be donating $4,500 per charging unit for an EV station.
That's great.
Because they're talking about creating a whole fleet of electric cars within 5 years.
Right.
So where are those charging stations going to be if they don't help put them in?
Right.
So we're actively engaged, and we have project managers. Both of our project managers are working on this, along with all their other things. So it's a daily conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I just want to make one comment, though, but we will charge you for that electric use out there.
I will pay as much as you want to charge.
You can take it out of your monthly.
Out of my stipend.
if there's some left.
Maybe I'll have
Just
coffee in the
depends.
morning.
Just depends. I did want to ask, though, is there a possibility of this this information being put on the website so we can show that we're actively doing this type of work? I mean, I think it would be really a proactive thing to start.
Yeah,
I mean, we
we
have
put
this great
together something.
report, but I mean, what are to ensure that people are seeing the work that's being done and the awareness and the focus that we're showing as a district around
I agree with that.
this
And
topic.
I can work with Lauren. She's busy. I can work with Lauren. We'll craft something to put on our facilities page that's a link to sustainability or to energy savings. We also have a dashboard through Prop 39 that's kind of clunky right now. So I actually got a copy of it today, and I'm going to work with our webmaster to see about getting that linked into our website. And it shows what we've saved over time and what, a bunch of comparisons with fossil fuel and incandescent lights. And so, we can make it look a little more like our own instead of Noresco's. But I think that'll be something that's pretty powerful to put on there too.
Great. And we've talked about, the groundbreaking when we do put in our first panels, which I think will be Las Flores. It probably still is the same, or maybe. I think that'll be a nice community moment of awareness and a great thing to actually physically see. And I just, again, love the fact that if that is indeed our first solar project, that these 4 and 5-year-olds that we serve there, this will be the way of life. And again, I just don't think this is I'm glad that you're on board, because it's just about time here in Santa Barbara, of all places, that we run our schools on Sunshine.
All righty then. I think that's good. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to the last 2 items. We have first reading sunshining of the Santa Barbara Unified School District proposal for successor contract negotiations with the California School Employee Association. Dr. Becchio, it says 2 minutes. Can you do that?
Dr. Reed, members of the board, and audience members who stayed for these last 2 items. For this item, this is the Santa Barbara Unified's proposal to open negotiations with these items with CSEA. And so you'll see them before you in that item, Article 9, of course, wages, health, and benefits. But we also will open with evaluations and catastrophic leave bank creation. So that is the Santa Barbara Unified's proposal to negotiate with CSEA. Want me to move on to the next one?
Yeah,
or
I think we
one item at a
can.
time.
Yeah. Go right ahead.
So that'll come back before you again for a second reading
Okay.
at November 13th board meeting. And then we have on item 7 is the Santa Barbara Unified's proposal to sunshine these articles and propose that these are openers for negotiation for most likely in January. And those are wages and compensation, health and welfare benefits, and then hours and conditions. And we will bring those back for a second reading at the next board meeting as well.
All right, thank you. I don't think we have any comments. We will, I guess I will say, any coming events that anyone wants to report on? And any future agenda items? And I think we can, I'm sure I have the support of the board. I think we're going to end our meeting. The next meeting will be Tuesday, November 13th, which is pretty exciting. And I think there's going to be I think it's going to probably last just as long, perhaps. Maybe not. So thank you all, and good night.